Another board member or two.
At least one more.
You are live, Daryl.
Thank you, Dwayne. Mr. Lott? Make sure everyone's mic is on. All right, we are back out of executive session. Appreciate your patience with us, but there was a couple of items that we needed to take care of this morning. Mr. Lott?
Madison County Board of Supervisors voted during executive session on one item to rescind the action authorizing a payment on the Catlett Road project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lott.
Thank you.
Now we're backing up to concerned citizens. Our Administrator, Greg. Greg, if you're out there, come on in. I think the sheriff went out to check and see. Andy, is Greg outside?
Look me at the bathroom, stop.
Here you come.
Greg, we're looking at concerned citizens.
Yes, sir.
Let's get the ones that have signed up, please.
All right. First name on my list is Sebastian Greaves, but I believe he is here for the public hearing, so I would suggest holding that one off.
Okay, anyone that's here for the public hearing, if we would, we'll just hold off until we have the public hearing, and then you'll be able to speak at that point.
All right. Next up would be Judith Fulati.
Okay, Judith? And guys, we're gonna hold it to 2 minutes, so if you would, come and state your name, give your address if you have not done so, and please, we're gonna keep it to 2 minutes. If
Thank
not,
you.
I'm gonna ask you to wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Judith?
Good morning, Your Honors.
Good morning.
I have submitted, again, another packet of handouts for your review. One thing that I'd like to immediately bring to your attention is what I believe is potentially a violation of the Sunshine Law, the open meeting law, that occurred here on July 3rd. My very first attachment, tab A, states the general rule: except for meetings that provide for public comment, there can be no discussion of any item not on the agenda, and you could read through the balance of that. If you go then through to Exhibit B, that was the agenda item dated July 3rd. On July 3rd, if you were to go to it printed out oddly, but if you were to go to the fourth page, you will see that the only agenda item was agenda item 66, Planning and Zoning Draft Minutes for June 8th. There was nothing on the agenda on June 3rd pertaining to Lake Caroline or any traffic report or analysis. But ultimately, what occurred then on July 3rd is that the board passed a motion for that traffic report. In fact, if you were to go then to tab C, there is a transcript of what actually occurred during the meeting here on July 3rd. It starts with actually Supervisor Steen asking, why is the Stribling Market not on the agenda? And Mr. Clark responding, the Stribling Market is not on the agenda today. You can go on and read through the rest of the transcript. If you were to match up the transcript with the July 3rd video, it is a verbatim transcript. Mr. Clark went on to conclude with, the site plan itself is not before you. So there was further discussion, and Finally, then, Mr. Steen asks Mr. Clark, is it appropriate for this board to take the action today that would pertain to a potential traffic report? Mr. Clark responded, sure, the approval is yours, or the disapproval is yours. So whatever information that you require or that you request must be submitted to you. Yes, I think that's appropriate for you to ask at any time.
Judith, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
But he doesn't inform you that you need to place it on the agenda. And then the board ultimately passed the traffic report. You caused the dispersion of public monies. I think that was a violation. I want to go back
Okay,
to.
now, let's finish up.
I want to go back to the ethics issue.
Okay.
It is very, very clear. I don't believe that you could hide behind the traffic analysis as a generic Stribling Road analysis for a number of reasons. The language is very clear in what has been submitted to you time and again. Lake Caroline is addressed. And in fact, if you were to review the January 2nd video, Mr. Kaiser himself made the comment that Lake Caroline is connected to the traffic analysis. You will remember that with regard to the ethics opinion from 2008 that I submitted,
That's enough.
no related discussions are acceptable.
Judith, let's
All
go
of my
ahead.
information is in the packet. I'll be speaking to the media about this further. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Minutes that you'd like to put in the minutes today?
Yes, would you please attach all of the documents that I've submitted? I'd appreciate that. Thank you very much for your
Okay.
time, gentlemen.
Thank you, Judith.
Motion to attach the
Second.
document.
Got a motion by Supervisor Baxter, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Next up would be Robert DeCoster.
All right, Mr. Robert, come up and state your name, give your address, if you have not done so already, and 2 minutes, please.
My name is Robert DeCoster. I'm a resident of Madison County. My address is on file. I take exception to the fact that on the traffic analysis that for some reason you feel that if you change the cover of the book, the contents are entirely different. The contents of that book address Lake Caroline inside and out, including a site plan of the gas station. What actually was the linchpin for this traffic study? The linchpin was the site plan that was developed and presented by LCI Mark Jordan. Had it not been for that, this probably never would have even come to your mind. I know very soon you're going to be releasing the 24 road study, of which roads are included in improvement for the county. But please understand that this study that was done, the analysis, is really not a good representation. I think you should actually take and look first at the zoning in that area prior to making any traffic reports. And as far as the analysis, it even says in there that if situations change, then the analysis isn't not really that important. It doesn't really show the development. And then you also have an investigation of the roadways. That's very interesting also, because if you take and look on your packet on some of the boring samples, you see one of the boring samples at position 8B is totally disintegrated. There is no solidity to it. Every other boring sample has a nice solid core. That one, it looks like a bunch of mush standing up straight. You're expecting us to take all of this just at your word and everything else. I'd like to share something just from the heart. I've had an opportunity to talk to an awful lot of people in the last 2 weeks, or actually a lot longer. And for a lot of those folks, their opinion of the Board of Supervisors is very, very poor. They feel that this has a lot of influence by the developers, and that there's perhaps been some transfer of funding and so on and so forth, and a donation.
Robert, let's wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Oh, I'm through with my 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd also like to thank all the police presence that we have here today. I notice we've got 5 or 6 officers, so obviously you're expecting us to get out of hand. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson. Next. Greg?
William Drinkwater.
All right, Mr. Williams. Come up, please, state your name, give your address if you have not done so already, please.
Good morning. I'm William Drinkwater. I live at 104 Devereaux Drive, Madison. I am an attorney at Bernini, Grantham, Gower, and Hughes and Jackson. I've been retained by Neighbors United for Responsible Planning and Zoning to oppose the Stripling Market development and any other commercial development that's currently being proposed at Lake Caroline. As y'all know, as everybody knows, in order to rezone property in Mississippi, you have to have somebody submit an application for rezoning. You have to post and publish notice of a public hearing. You have to conduct a public hearing, and then there has to be an ordinance or resolution passed approving the rezoning. Bill Harden, who's a resident of Lake Caroline and was also for 20 years the zoning administrator for the city of Jackson, has carefully reviewed the county's records and has been unable to see that these requirements were satisfied with respect to the property where Stripling Market would be located. There's a very serious question as to whether or not this property is appropriately zoned for the use that's being proposed. As soon as this hearing is over with, or as soon as I leave this hearing, I'm going to be submitting a public records request to the county relating to that development and the zoning of Lake Caroline so that we can get to the bottom of that issue. I would encourage and ask the board not to take any action with respect to any commercial development at Lake Caroline until the county's responded to that request. We've had an opportunity to review it and get to the bottom of it, and everybody can be on the same page with respect to the zoning of that property. Obviously, if the property is not zoned commercial, that development cannot go there absent a rezoning. If the property is in fact zoned commercial, we intend on filing an application to rezone the property because frankly, a gas station and a convenience store is not consistent with the character of the neighborhood and is inappropriate for that area. So again, we're asking that you all not do anything precipitously, give us time to research this issue, and avoid, this thing winding up in litigation, everybody spending tens of thousands of dollars and not having a resolution to this for several years. Thank you.
Sir.
Let's go with Lena Benson. It's Miss Benson, I assume. Lena.
Who is this?
Andy,
Next.
Andy, will you meet with Mr. Drinkwater and give him the documentation he's requested?
Absolutely.
Thank
Will
you.
do.
Andy, if you would, step up and just kind of give a brief review where we are in this matter as far as the planning and zoning, or as far as just looking at the zoning in general.
Yes, sir. I think what Mr. Drinkwater said is okay or true. I think we've kind of plowed that ground already, so his public records request will be pretty easy to respond to. You guys set, I think, I don't remember if it was November or December meeting, public hearing on this issue. And at that time, we did not have really any input from the developer. And immediately following that meeting, he reached out through his attorney, Don McGraw, and let us know that they weren't quite ready for that because they did not have a legal description for the 55 acres that is subject to the issue here today. So at this point, we're waiting on a legal description from them so that we can properly publish and notify in the newspaper of the public hearing that you guys previously set. So we'll be setting that at another date once we get that.
Okay, so we need to get the description first.
Yes, sir.
Before it comes back in front of the board.
That's correct.
And there's not a time
No, sir. I don't,
that you know of.
that I know of. No, sir.
Okay,
No, sir.
thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Any other concerned citizens that have signed up? Any
No,
that
sir.
did not sign that would like to speak to the board? on any matter? If not, we're going to move on to Spencer, Flag Guard.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of the Election Commission, their lawyer. Been privileged to do that for a while, and a number of them are here today. 4 of them are here. We're off to a good start. 2023, we had the general election 2 months ago, and I don't think, in the time I've been doing it, I don't think we could have had a better election. I mean, really no problem. So we have that wind at our back. We start 2024, and when a presidential election year comes, it's always an earlier primary, so believe it or not, you can vote absentee in the circuit clerk's office like January 29th. So about the first week in March or so, we'll have the primary election. We've got 2 good new election commissioners, Barbara Gross and Anthony Denton, are off to a good start. And so the primary election is the political party's primary. It's not the county's. So what we always do is work with them and say, what do y'all want to do? And we had a good meeting with the chairman of the Democrat and Republican parties here. We meet here in the election commission room, work through things, are going to basically offer them the same offer to help them with their primary elections, doing things like getting the machines to the polls and stuff in supply bags, but it's their primary. They'll, appoint their poll workers and that type of thing. So we pretty much have the agreement worked out and agreed to the changes the Democrat Party wanted. But there was one sticking point so I was asked to come here and kind of lay it out for y'all. I think you remember last year there was a poll worker that it was reported was had been purged from the rolls, was a felon, and then got paid to be a poll worker, and you have to be on the voter rolls to be a poll worker, which is common sense and is what the law is. So I was asked how that happened, and it just happened because the names were submitted to y'all and they're on the claims docket, and it just went through. So this time I put in the contract that the parties have to let us know who the poll workers are, election commission, and the election commission can verify that they're on the voter rolls and eligible legal poll workers, and then once they're verified, we verify that to y'all before they're paid. And so that was a area of disagreement with one of the parties. So I'm glad to stick to that if y'all want me to. It's your prerogative to pay the poll workers. We help with elections where we're asked to help, and so that's kind of the issue I was asked to put forward in front of y'all. I don't know if you have any questions on that or anything else with the primaries. But in general, we're in a really good position heading into a big election year, and I know the general election will have a big turnout like it did in 2022. So we like it when everybody votes. So that's a good situation. But anyway, on this primary, let me know if you have any questions or input.
Okay. From what I understand, the primary is ran by the parties,
That's right. It's their primary.
and the
their election.
primary this year will be in March.
That's right. I think it's March 8th.
March 8th.
12th, sorry.
Okay, March the 12th.
Okay.
And so what I'm hearing you say that y'all, the election commissioners have agreed with both parties as far as to help run the parties and to help run the election in the primaries.
That's right. So specific tasks, yes.
With the exception of one party, Democrat Party, may not turn the names over prior to the election. Is that what
Well,
I'm
the
hearing?
main point is the sticking point is for us to verify that they're on the rolls before they're paid. That's where the rub is. That's
That's the only sticking point
Right.
that's in the agreement.
right.
And what you're asking the board to do is to,
Do y'all agree with that position? You want me to stick to that position?
and that position is there because we want to make sure that everybody that's a poll worker is legally a poll, can be. a
That's right,
poll
which I
worker.
think is what everybody
Right.
would want. I mean, we
That's
want
right.
people paid we want legal payments to legal poll workers. So,
Okay,
okay.
discussion from the board,
I
questions?
got some discussion. How many split precincts do we have in the county?
I always say we have too many, and I know that's hard because it's hard to do
27?
districting, but we have
All
too
right, how
many.
many precincts are there total?
Commissioner Truesdale, 43.
How many of them are split?
43.
Can you guys put a plan together to help simplify the process a little bit?
Commissioner Truesdale's been taking the point on that. She's been doing this longer than I have. which is a while. So let me, got to call on her to answer your question.
Please do, come up.
Okay.
You might want to explain exactly what it means to have a Pat. Can you explain exactly what it means to have a split precinct and the number of ballots you have to produce at each precinct?
The splits are created by the type of election that we're having, and at times we have more than others. The split is caused by, let's say, in my home box of the Wesley Chapel Church there in Ridgeland, used to be First Methodist. We may have 2 supervisors in that same box, which we do, and we may have that would then also create 2 election commissioners that would be in that box. And then you'd have the representatives. It depends on the election. The last election where we were electing representatives to the State House, we had 2 separate people that could be on the ballot. And so that therefore created 6 extra splits right there, just with those people in that one precinct.
Is there any way to simplify it?
There is, if the redistricting is done in a manner, it will never be totally eliminated, but it could be greatly reduced to the high number that we seem to have right now. But redistricting has been done, and so we're having to try to work with it.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on elections or the primary?
No, but let's get back to your questions that you come to the board with as far as holding tight to ensure that whoever is a poll worker is legally able to be a poll worker. And so for me, yes, we definitely need to hold to that standard.
Okay.
That's just.
All right, that sounds good. Anybody have a different opinion or?
And that standard is being a legal voter of Madison County.
That's right. And so it's, don't want somebody from Leake County working the polls, another way to put it. But the commission can turn around really fast. Y'all aren't in a position to do that because you don't have access to the statewide database. They do. They'll turn it around quick, verify them to y'all. And the great poll workers that work from 6:30 in the morning till 9 at night will get paid timely, which is what we all want. So I'll stick to that if that sounds good to y'all.
So if there's not an agreement with either of the parties because of that reason, then what happens?
Well, the Republican Party's going to agree, and so we'll help them with their supply bags and, things they can do. And I hadn't fully thought through if the Democrats don't agree. I think they will, honestly. I think everybody wants,
Good.
legal poll workers, but I'll just stick to that if that sounds good. And then, we're in a sprint to the primary, so we don't have to talk during meetings. Y'all got my cell number and your election commissioner's cell number. So let's keep in touch. As you learn of new people that want to work the polls, let us know. We've got a number of new good people that have been trained off the 23 election, but we always could have new people, so let us know and we'll work together and have another good election year for Madison County.
Are there any other thoughts from the supervisors on this concern?
So what's the lead time that they'll have to identify the poll workers and give you guys time to vet them? Is there 3
We told them, by February 20th, and they should be able to do that. We know exactly who worked the general election in November, and so we're going to give them those lists, and they ought to just kind of confirm and assign those, and if they got new people, that gives them, 6 weeks to get them to us, and we'll turn them around. Hopefully, the docket after the election day, y'all can have them ready to be paid. So
Sounds good.
yeah, good question.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Spence.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we have item number 3. Dr. Brown?
Mr. President, she texted me she's going to be unable to make it today and would like to reschedule it for a later date.
Sounds great. Thank you, Greg. Next is update. Stephanie Smith giving us an update on the tax collector accountant. Good morning.
Good morning. When I was here last,
Pull the mic a little closer. Thank you.
when I was here in December, I reviewed our report that was issued the very end of November, the forensic findings of our work with the tax collector's office. And I do believe it's attached today as part of the agenda. And so I can go back over that if I need to, but I'm not sure that I do. What would you?
That's probably going to be a couple of questions concerning that.
Sure. Well, let me say then very generally that the report it dealt with fiscal year that ended in September of 2022. I was engaged because there was a shortfall in cash which could not be explained. So my work really focused on that fiscal year and had three major findings. One was that the interlocal agreements with the cities were not being handled correctly. And that is what caused this shortfall in cash. It wasn't actually a shortfall. There was no missing cash. It was just something that was settled twice. The second thing that I addressed in my report was the state of the accounting in the tax collector's office. The bank accounts had not been reconciled in months. And the cash journals, which tie to the bank accounts, were not posted timely. The system that was being used to do that was something that was very subject to errors. There were many mistakes, adjustments. I think I made over $3 million in adjustments during that fiscal year. So that was a problem. And then the third thing that I talked about in the report was the refund process. We had uncovered hundreds of refunds that had not been issued that should have been issued. And then the final thing in the report just makes some general comments about the internal control, the office procedures, and made some suggestions about things that could improve that situation. So if there are any questions that relate to that, I'll be happy to answer them right now.
Hey, first of all, the refunds, you were able to go through all, and all of them have been taken care of, or?
I cannot confirm that they have all been done. I know that several hundred went out in November and December. It's part of what I've got to do in the next 2 weeks is to verify that everyone that could be issued was issued. And so I've been told that, but I have not actually been able to verify it yet.
But that is part of your responsibility at this point?
Yes.
To go back and make sure all of them are taken care of?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me tell you what I feel like I have left to do, and you can direct me if there's something else.
Okay.
I think my remaining responsibilities are to bring these bank reconciliations current to December 31st.
Right.
They are also to be sure that everything that was collected in December is properly dispersed by January 20th of this year. So that the only things that should be left in those tax collector bank accounts would be outstanding checks and any unissued refunds. I should be able to nail down that number because everything else should have been dispersed. So I am working my way to that point. The November and December journals have not been posted yet, and the disbursements have not been made. So I'm a few months away from having that, but my plan, I had hoped that today I would be able to report that all that was done. Obviously, the weather delayed some things in their offices, but by your next meeting, I should be able to say, this is where we are at the end of the last, at the end of Kay Pace's term. This is what's left.
Okay.
Okay?
Also, reading your report, this kind of sum it up, that each city has received their allocated monies with the exception of the city of Canton.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
I think that.
And that was as of November 29th. Now, I don't think it's happened yet. I don't think they've received it.
Well, we have, I think we voted to give them $88,000.
Correct.
That's what the law
Right, and that's what the report
us
says.
to do. And so there's a shortfall there of 400,000,
Correct.
roughly 400.
Right.
At this point, that the board will need to look at
Right.
as well. And see what we can do to make them whole. But the other cities are made whole as of through November then.
Yes.
Okay, and you'll come back, our next board meeting to give us update, which hopefully you'll have it finalized through December 31st.
That's my plan. Yes, sir.
Okay, and that includes the refunds as well.
Yes, that will be everything.
Okay,
There also will be a number of outstanding checks that have been there for a while, and there's a process to deal with those. And I believe it involves having that money held in trust by the Board of Supervisors with a list of those, disbursements, so.
Okay. Are there questions from the board?
With your experience, what type of procedures or processes could we put in place to make sure this doesn't happen again?
I have met with the new tax collector several times, and we've discussed this, and I think that he will probably bring something to the board possibly today. I have recommended just using an outside accounting service to handle certain portions of the accounting, mainly the cash disbursements journal and the bank reconciliation, until such time as he can find the right personnel to bring in that have the knowledge and experience to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And that's another problem we had. They're about 2 months late. So I'm going to work on that. When before my term, they're going to go out on time.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
And you sent them out when you got in office, right?
They went out a week after I took office. I'm not going to take credit, but they did. Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. Anything else? CJ, any other statements from?
So you think we don't need a best practices study from a firm? We can straighten this out with the help?
I don't think so. It's pretty simple stuff. It's just oversight. People need to be in place doing the right things that are qualified. And I think Stephanie and Grant the Pool will hold us over until we get the right people in place.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Good deal. Thank
Absolutely.
you, CJ.
Thank y'all.
Definitely, we look forward to the next board meeting where you can come up and say everything's been finalized through December 31st,
I do too.
2023.
Thank you.
With that being said, I'm going to go down and get the consent items since we just talked a little bit about it. Do I have a motion to approve the consent items?
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second? Second, Supervisor Griffin. Discussion?
I would like to have one of the items discussed.
Okay. Which item would you like to have removed?
Number 28, the EMA approved travel and related expenses for ESRI user conference for Ms. McLaurin and Mr. Jones to San Diego, California, July 15th through the 19th, 2024.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. You want to discuss it or have it removed? Have it discussed.
Removed and discussed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you mind changing your motion, Supervisor Griffin, to have item 28 removed?
Then you make your motion, and I second it.
That may have been made.
Carl?
Okay, so I'll make the motion that all items except for item 28 would be approved.
That's what I say.
All right, got a motion, got a second? Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, let's take up item 28. Supervisor Casey?
I have reviewed this, and it is a user conference in California. It is not training. It is a go and spend 4 days in California type thing and discuss GIS-related things. Based on what I've seen is the cost per user, the cost per 4 nights of hotels, over $300 a night for 2 people, so that's pushing $700 a day, plus per diem, plus travel. This is a $10,000 trip, which looks like a vacation, and I do not believe that it is a prudent expenditure for our tax dollars. I believe that if they do need some training in GIS, which is definitely not unheard of, that $10,000 could definitely be used for a local training class for these two people, not one in San Diego. That's basically my issue with it. I just don't think it is a valid travel trip for anything that's going to benefit the citizens of Madison County.
Thank you, and is Albert here?
You would.
Albert, I think you probably had this put on the agenda. Supervisor Brad, and you heard his statements, and all of us are interested in what your answer is.
Yeah, I did. That's this, Ezra is the work where we keep our license current. So where they had it in California, that's the place where they had it at. But in order for us to keep our license current, we had to be involved with them. Just to let everybody know, ArcGIS is finna go out this year. So, the end of 24. So next year we're gonna be going to ArcGIS Pro. So it's just where all the information is given and where the county needs to be updated, because that's just the era we're going in. And plus, we had a retired person that's been doing it, and since it's up under me, I want to make sure we continue to have it and understand what the ArcGIS is doing, because that's what we're going to.
Is this to keep your license
Yes, sir.
active?
Keep it renewed. Yes, sir.
So as far as license goes, you don't just pay a software license?
Well, to my understanding, we do have to pay, but you also have to show up.
You have to show up
Yes,
to
sir.
California to keep your license, or you can't use the software?
That's from my understanding, yes, sir, because that's where the class was offered at this time. And I don't know last year where it was offered at. When K Little did it, I don't know.
Yeah, it could be in New York next
year. And it's just wherever they decide to have it at.
I make a motion that we approve that item.
Can I ask one more question?
Hold on, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? I'll second it for further discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Dwayne, as the IT director, do you have any input into his licensing for his software? That's something they handle in that department. Is it your experience that anyone would have to travel to a conference to keep a license?
Certain licenses that you have to go to training to.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second for approval. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Unanimous vote?
Was that an aye?
Yes, it was an
Okay.
aye.
All right, thank you, Albert. All right, let's go back to the public hearing and kind of get back on track. Do I have a motion to enter to public hearing?
Motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Baxter.
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Scott, this is under you, but I'm going to ask Andy to come up and to give us a brief overview where we are on this public hearing. And
Yes, sir. Just from a procedural standpoint, this matter's been around for a while. I think the Phillips first submitted their application in April of last year. There was, as I understand it, numerous or several, I'll say, trips back and forth between the Phillips and the Mansdale-Livingston Historic Preservation District on their submission. But as far as planning and zoning goes, they came to the Planning and Zoning Commission on August the 10th of 2023 with their application. It was approved on a 5-0 vote at that time, conditioned on review and approval of the MLHPD. On August the 14th, MLHPD met and denied the application. I think at that time there were, and if I'm wrong, the documents will prove me otherwise. There were two issues that they wanted to see addressed, one being landscaping, and I think one of the plans was missing one of the side elevations of the building. And MLHPD denied that on August the 15th via letter to Scott Weeks. At that time, I think the Phillips retained counsel, Mr. Steve Smith, and to move the project forward. On October the 10th of 2023, Scott and I met with Ms. Rita McGuffey and Ken Primos of the MLHPD Commission, and we were there to discuss supplemental resubmissions of their site plan. And at that meeting, on behalf of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I asked MLHPD to convene and review the supplemental submissions for that site plan. MLHPD declined to do so and advised that they were going to stand on their August the 14th denial. So we moved forward as Planning and Zoning Commission on October the 19th. We approved this site plan on or the conditional use on a 3-to-1 vote. Subsequent to that, Mr. Kevin Watson, on behalf of several individuals and entities, timely filed their notice of appeal, and that's what they are here today in front of you all to present for your thoughts, approval, or denial.
Andy, just a couple questions here. The Planning and Zoning Board approved it on August 10th, 5-0.
Conditioned on approval, review and approve, and I left that out. That's an important part. Obviously, MLHPD had met and reviewed this a number of times with some resubmissions. It has happened on occasion where Planning and Zoning meets and may approve or deny prior to approval or denial from the MLHPD. That's what happened here. Just as we try to move as efficiently as we can. MLHPD and Planning and Zoning approvals and denials are mutually exclusive of each other. In other words, one is not dependent on the other. So that's all that we were trying to do. We weren't trying to get ahead of anybody or steal anybody's, time to review. We were just as a cost-saving measure. A time-saving measure, sorry.
But it went back in front of the MLHPD board,
Yes, sir.
and there was two things that they disagreed with, and one was the landscaping, and the other one, you said, the side elevation.
A side elevation of the building, yes, sir. Just what the side of the building would look like.
Did they ever take that up?
No, sir. Not as far as I know, because they stood on their August the 14th denial.
You know why they didn't take that up? Did they communicate with you on why they didn't take it up, if that was the only two issues that they had?
No, sir. If I recall, Ms. McGuffey said that they could not get a quorum and just advised that they would stand on that denial and advised the Phillips to direct all further communications to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Could not get a quorum?
Yes, sir. That's my recollection. I think she's here. She may. Is that?
All right. Okay, that's all the questions I have at this point. The board have any questions for Andy before we get into the public hearing? Okay, and the
she was getting ready to address that specific question.
yeah, I think that will probably, you come up and address if, Reed?
Yeah, Reed, I didn't want to speak for you. That was just my recollection. So.
Hi, my name is Rita McGuffey, and I am with the Mansdale Livingston Heritage Preservation Commission. And yes, we did meet with the Phillips many times. I think the sticking point here is on October the 19th. Our motion was misread, and it left out the first part of the motion. The motion said that we would deny it because it is incomplete. There's a lack of information about landscaping, and the sides of the building as presented were inappropriate. The fact is, the way the motion says, it is incomplete. There were several things that it was incomplete on. We never gave them a list of 2 things.
Which motion, the motion from you?
The motion for MLHPT to deny.
Okay, so that motion was incomplete.
No. The motion, when it was referenced at the October 19th meeting, it only did the last part of the motion and left out the first part. So it was not 2 items.
What was do you recall the first part then of that motion?
I wrote it down, just in case I needed to. Okay. Motion. Okay. We move to deny this proposal based on the fact that the presentation tonight is incomplete, comma, there is a lack of information about landscaping, and the elevations which can be viewed by adjoining landowners are not appropriate.
So basically it was the landscaping and the side elevation.
Plus all of the things that were incomplete that they never, there was just a lot of things.
Do you have those? I'm just trying to figure out what was incomplete.
Oh, there were a lot of things incomplete. No certificate of appropriateness, no. They said they had redone the application for conditional use, but they did not have that with them and couldn't produce it. And there were all sorts of figures and things. We had tried to explain that when property is in a PUD, that whenever something new comes in, it needs to have some sort of numbers to show how it affects the overall PUD, as the overall PUD was approved.
Okay.
And so, I mean, there were a number of things that, were like that weren't in there. So it wasn't 2 items.
Yeah.
Just
I would love to see a list of those things to the board.
I can get those
Maybe
to
not today if you don't, to not
Yes.
have them, but just.
over the course of, yeah.
Right. Thank you, Rita.
Yes, I'll be delighted to do that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Okay, we'll get started with continue to move forward with the public hearing, and we'll look, where is Steve? Steve, we'll start with you and come up and tell us who you are and who you're representing, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, my name is Steve Smith, attorney from Jackson. I'm here today on behalf of Chad and Crystal Phillips. We have before you an application for a conditional use permit.
Before you go further, I know that we have a couple of attorneys that will speak, and you're one of them. And I know this is a very important matter to everyone in this room, but if we would, let's keep it to 10 or 15 minutes if you can.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Again, we're here today on behalf of the application we have pending for a conditional use permit. Understand, our application for conditional use permit involves the construction of a public, quasi-public facility, which is a personal care assisted living facility. That type of facility, being a public, quasi-public facility, is allowed in every zoning district in this county, not just C1 where our property is located, not just within the PUD where our property is located. And I ask you to make that inquiry of Mr. Clark and Mr. Weeks before this is over with. So this issue is very simple, to be honest with you. We have property that's located in a C1 zoned area. It's in a PUD. It's a public, quasi-public facility and allowed every day in every zoning district. I'll continue. As of today, Mr. Watson has filed an appeal. He listed the members of the Graves family who have property in the immediate vicinity and whom we bought our property from. And there's another gentleman, I think, that owns like 3 businesses there in Livingston Township. As of today, I'm not aware of any written objection by the Reunion Homeowners Association Board of Directors, no objection by the Annandale Homeowners Association Board of Directors, no objection that I've seen by the Chestnut Hill Homeowners Association Board of Directors, and no objection that I'm aware of by the Lake Caroline Homeowners Association Board of Directors to this development. There are a total of 5 acres that we own. Our 5 acres abuts Highway 22, and it abuts other commercial property owned by the Livingston Township developers. The people across the street are the Phillips. They're totally in favor of our development. Our development is 2.5 football fields from any of the residential development that would be in Livingston Township, probably the same distance from any of the houses in Chestnut Hill subdivision, and would not be seen by any houses in Chestnut Hill subdivision or the future residential development in Livingston Township PUD. Mr. Clark touched on the procedural situation that got us here. But before I get there, let me touch on who will own this development and who will own it and manage it. James and Crystal Phillips will be the owners and managers of this facility. James is a registered charge nurse with over 10 years ICU settings experience. He's licensed in Mississippi and Louisiana, and he's got National Assisted Living Manager certificates that would allow him to run this facility. Crystal is part of a 4th generation Gardner real estate family. Crystal is vice president of that organization that was founded by her grandmother, Gertrude Gardner, led 750 realtors and 5,000 plus local real estate transactions for over $1 billion annually. They know how to run the facility, and they know real estate. More to the point, James and Crystal, Chad and Crystal, not only have the wealth and the healthcare experience, they have secured an expert team of individuals and owners who they can rely on for networking, consultation, and any kind of question that may come up. The Residential Assisted Living Academy is one of America's most well-known leaders in educating and supporting investors and entrepreneurs in personal care assisted living facilities. That's what our facility would be. RAL advises on everything from site selection, architectural design and review, construction, business planning, financial operation, and management, as they did with our facility that we're offering today. The principals of RAL have over 20 years of experience in educating and assisting entrepreneurs and investors in owning and operating personal care assisted living facilities. I'm handing you a packet that has a supplemental submission with it, and along with a number of exhibits that are going to be very important and that are going to support everything I have to say here today. I'm not here saying there are a bunch of other items that were on that were used to deny this or whatever. I'll let you know exactly what the documents say. First of all, Our submission, our application was filed with Planning and Zoning on April 1st this year. Planning and Zoning unanimously approved it, subject to approval by Mansdale Livingston. Mansdale Livingston took our application on August 14th of this year. They approved it except for lack of information about landscaping and side elevations of the building were incomplete. Now, I'm not saying that from memory. I'm saying that those are the two reasons contained in their minutes. Those are contained in their minutes for denying our application. That's Exhibit 3 in your packet. They can wave their wand and say whatever they want to, and there are a bunch of other items. But where I come from, the law in Mississippi is you speak through your minutes. Those are the only two items they denied us for. We immediately revised our plans to address those two items. We asked Ms. McGuffey if they would revisit our application. She said no. Go to the Planning and Zoning, go to the Board of Supervisors. That's what we did. I took 8 sets of plans, gave them to Scott Weeks on October 10th, along with our revised plans, and they're in the record, and they're an exhibit to your packet. Ms. McGuffey and Mr. Ken Primos met with Andy Clark and Scott Weeks, I think the week of October 12th. Some additional items came up. On Friday the 13th, Scott Weeks sent me an email. That email, his email is in the packet. Said, these are 6 additional items we'd like for you to address. On Monday, October 16th, I had him 8 new revised sets of plans. And all 8, the original 2 in their minutes and the additional 6 that Mr. Weeks sent me, all of those revisions were a part of our plans. Ladies and gentlemen, there's not one thing that Mansdale Livingston asked us to do or change or revisit that we did not do. There is not one thing in our plans that does not meet all of the Madison County zoning criteria to approve our application. And I ask you to ask that question to Mr. Weeks and Mr. Clark. We have done everything. They have had every opportunity. They gave us 6 additional items. We met them. Gladly. Glad to do it. No problem. So as of October 16th, gentlemen, this is an important juncture before you. Our application process was approved, met every criteria by Madison County required and met every request by Mansdale Livingston. The 2 requests in their minutes and the 6 requests in Mr. Scott Weeks' email that's a part of your packet. We are compliant, gentlemen, in every respect. I want to lay out for you now what our facility looks like, what it is and what it is not, because I think you're going to hear a lot of what our facility is not from the objectors. If you don't, great, less information to process. But I want to address this on the front end. Within a planned unit development, you're constrained by the underlying zoning requirement. The underlying zoning in the Livingston Township development is C1. A public, quasi-public facility is allowed in C1. And again, under section 402 of your ordinance, public, quasi-public facilities are allowed in every zoning district in the county. Can't say that about a condominium, about an apartment, about a multi-dwelling facility. They have to be in specifically zoned areas as opposed to a public, quasi-public facility. Our facility is going to be a 15-bed facility. And you see it right here. Now, I'm not an architect. I'm not an engineer. But I have been doing this for 45 years. And with all due respect to anybody that looks at what our facility will look like, I think it goes with all of the other buildings in the Livingston Township development and anything around Livingston Township development. I think the photograph speaks for itself.
Steve, do you mind just turning that around to the crowd and just let them look at it right quick?
And we have the other three elevations of the building itself. This is what Mansdale Livingston wanted us to do. This is what we prepared, and this is what we will build and put in the ground.
Thank you, Steve.
I want the board to know that as part of what I've given you today, there are a set of regulations. I'm trying to give you the exhibit number. There's a set of regulations issued by the state of Mississippi. They're attached. They're 40 pages long. I have read through, painstakingly read through, each and every one of the regulations. They control from A to Z everything that could possibly be questioned or asked or addressed in constructing, owning, operating a personal care assisted living facility. There's not one thing left to anybody's imagination or question. There's not one definition about what our facility is, how it can be operated, the kind of space it has to have, the kind of facilities it has to have, the kind of patients that can be treated in our facility. There are a lot of rumors out there that, oh, well, this might be a drug and alcohol treatment facility one day. It could be changed to that. Oh, well, they may be allowed to treat people with mental diseases out there. Well, the interesting part of that is that the regulations themselves prohibit that. The regulations themselves specifically designate what a personal care home residential facility is and what a personal care home assisted living facility is. That's 47.5.1 and 47.5.2. Under the personal care home residential type facility, it says it houses accepting individuals who require personal care services or individuals who, due to functional impairments, may require mental health services. That's for personal care home residential facility. Under our facility, personal care home assisted living, it says shall mean any place or facility operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, accepting individuals who require assisted living services as governed by the regulations. We can't have people who require mental health services. We can't have under 47.12.1, we can't have anybody in our facility that requires physical constraints. We can't have anybody that poses a serious threat to himself or herself or others. We can't have patients that require gastric feedings, intravenous fluids, indwelling of a catheter, requires sterile wound care, requires treatment of ulcer or other dermatitis situations. This is an assisted living facility. The type of resident we can have and treat and have there is very, very limited. And our license is what controls what we can do. So when we get our license to own and operate a personal care assisted living facility, we are bound by these minimum standards that the state health department enforces. Period. There's nothing left to question. It's not up to the county, it's up to the state. It's very strict. And when you look at subchapter 6, 7, 8, and 9, it deals with licensure, and it tells you how a license, what it requires to have a license issued, how it can be revoked, how it can be suspended, how it can be done away with altogether. So if somebody makes a complaint against our facility, and they go to the state health department, and they come out and investigate, and there's merit, our license can be suspended. It's very strict, ladies and gentlemen, and all the things you hear out in the neighborhood is wrong, because there's not one other person in this room that's read and understands these regulations better than I. Mr. Watson and Mr. Clark had a discussion about our facility back in September. And Mr. Clark answered a number of questions Mr. Watson had. I'm going to cover those quickly. First, contrary to what Mr. Watson was asserting, your 2019 zoning ordinances control our application that's before you, not your 2005 ordinance, because on your 2019 zoning ordinance, you clearly state, and it's in my presentation. This 2019, an ordinance establishing comprehensive zoning regulations for Madison County, Mississippi, and providing for the administration, enforcement, and amendment thereof, and for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict therewith. That's contained on the face of every new zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan you adopt, and for good reason. Anybody who's done municipal work, or county board of supervisors work, knows that. So no, 2019 controlled. Mr. Clark went to a painstaking effort, and his letter, by the way, is Exhibit 11 in your packet. And this is the planning and zoning attorney, not me. These are his opinions, his understanding. Mr. Clark specifically said the Oaks is not classified as a boarding house under 2005 zoning ordinance. The Oaks is not a residential use. It's a commercial use. And the current applications for an assisted living facility, which is clearly permissible as a conditional use for a public, quasi-public facility in a C1 district. Number three, our hours of operation were questioned by Mr. Watson and a number of the objectors. Under section 1915 of your ordinances that deal with hours of operation in the Mansdale-Livingston district, the hours of operation under your ordinance are from 6 to 9. Our hours of operation will be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., well within the limit. Number four, Mr. Clark went on to quote the definition of public, quasi-public facility, nursing home, and assisted living, all of which we meet qualifications for. There are further objections that Mr. Watson levied to Mr. Clark, talking about, well, you know, if apartments and condos and inns are not allowed in the Mansdale-Livingston district, how is this assisted living facility? It's real simple. This is not a hotel, a motel, or an inn. It's a public, quasi-public facility, and it's a personal care assisted living facility defined under the ordinance. Last but not least, they said, well, what if the owner goes out of business? What's going to happen? Mr. Clark said, look at Article 4, Section 406.14. Upon change in use of structure or parcel and prior to issuance of a privilege license, a zoning verification must be completed by the Madison County Administrator or their appointee. The proposed use of the property should comply with the zoning regulations for that type use, including but limited to a number of other things. Mr. Supervisor, we had a petition that was circulated to the Union Homeowners Association. It was circulated under the guise and subterfuge that you were going to take up this, our project on January 4th. The only thing you were going to do on January 4th was set a public hearing for our project. So the petition, and that petition, I included it in our packet because I want you to see it. It's number 12. That was a petition circulated by one of the members of the Graves family. And it was a petition against our development. And it basically listed out 4 things. I'm going to cover them real quick. It first says, the Oaks does not meet the standard of MLHPD. When you look at Exhibit 12, the first item that I just read, there's not one standard of Mansdale Livingston listed on the petition that the Oaks supposedly does not meet. And you remember, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approved our project on August 10, 2023, and Mansdale Livingston had 2 different occasions to go back and revisit our petition if they wanted to. They declined, fine, and said, go see Planning and Zoning, go see the Board of Supervisors. That's what we did. We made the 6 changes they requested. I brought them up here under a cover letter of October 16th, 8 different sets, and met everything Mansdale Livingston asked of us. Again, the only 2 things Mansdale Livingston denied us on was some landscaping on one side and failure to include some site elevations, both of which were cured. Second thing, on the petition they say there's a worrisome definition of personal care home. Well, the definition of personal care assisted living facility is in state regulation, and it's a lot more strict than Madison County zoning orders. And contrary to the objectors' objections, the definition and classification of our facility, means of construction, operation, management, and all other aspects are controlled by the Mississippi State Health Department in the 40 pages of regulations. There's no question, gentlemen, about what our facility is, how it has to operate, how it has to be managed and regulated, how it has to be licensed, and how it has to keep its license. All of these regulations are authorized under Section 4311.13 of the Mississippi Code. Again, when you look at subchapters 6, 7, 8, and 9, they specifically lay out all the specifics dealing with licenses, how they're subject to denial, suspension, or revocation by the State Health Department. It is not possible, under the regulations I provided with our presentation, for our facility to ever become a drug rehab, alcohol rehab facility, or a facility that treats for mental diseases. It's not in the license. And it's not even controlled by the State Health Department. Drug rehab, alcohol rehab is controlled by a totally different state agency. So that myth and that misrepresentation out in the public amounts to zero. The objection said, well, this is going to be overnight occupancy. No, it's not an inn. It's not a motel. It's not a multifamily dwelling. It's a personal care assisted living facility, which is a public quasi-public facility allowed in every zoning district. Fourth objection on the petition. Again, the Oaks petition doesn't meet the ML standards. Well, not to be outdone, the Graves family also asserts that there's some kind or somewhere some restriction or reservation, prohibition, exclusion of our facility being built on our land. Well, in the deed, special warranty deed, where the Graves family sold us, where they originally sold this property to Chestnut Hill, Chestnut Hill being a predecessor in title to our purchase, the Graves special warranty deed says this: grantor acknowledges, and this is in your packet, that grantee's plans include a commercial development on the property. The Graves acknowledged that and put it in the deed. That's exactly what we are, a commercial facility. But there's one kicker I want you to look at. And I think this kind of takes it all. And this is in your packet. It's the last thing in your packet. This is a proposed development plan for the Livingston Township. And you remember when I was here before asking for a rezoning for 7 acres that's within the Livingston Township to go from commercial to residential so that my clients could undertake construction of the Shire development. This general development plan was put out by Mr. David Landrum. It's been around since 2007. And all those people that appeared objecting to the Shire development, the Shire rezoning, they all had one of these. Everybody has seen this. And it's been around since Livingston Township was developed. Now, the objector said, this isn't good. This doesn't fit. It doesn't apply. It's not right. It's not good for the facility. It's not good for the neighborhood. I just want you to look up here in the right-hand corner. And I want you to look and see what this land has been planned for ever since this development plan was created. Active senior retirement. With all due respect to the objectors, I think this says it all. With all due respect to the board, there is no factual or legal basis that the objectors have stated or will state to you today to deny our application. And we respectfully request that you take up our application and unanimously approve it. Last thing, is our facility going to devalue the property around there? Well, there's no property on the other side of 22. The property on 2 sides of us is owned by the developers of Livingston Township. It's commercial. And they're not here objecting today. But I want you to just think about this, because our facility is going to be on the same quality of ownership and development and management as the facility originally called the Blake. Do y'all know where the Blake is? Have you been in the Blake? You know anybody whose parents or grandparents have lived in the Blake? Yeah. Well, all you have to do is a real easy Google, and you can look at the pristine development that has come around the Blake. Now, if they thought their property was going to be developed because you had a personal care assisted living facility around there, I doubt the 5 or 6 different hotel chains, the restaurants, the club tennis center, and all of these others on this Google, I doubt they'd be there. So when you hear that objection today, just think about the Blake. That's real. That's not an observation. That's not an appraisal. That's real. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank you, Steve. Are there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of? If not, Mr. Watson.
Mr. Steen, members of the board, good morning. My name's Kevin Watson. I represent the appellants. Just to be sure we have them all, Mr. Smith was kind enough to refer to some of them. The appellants are the Briar Patch LLC, Cedar Rose LLC, the Palmetto Men's Shop,
Mr. and Mrs. Arnie Graves, Dr. and Mrs. James Sutherland, Mr. and Mrs. Sebastian Graves, and Mr. and Mrs. John Mills, and Mr. and Mrs. Henry Graves. They're the appellants, and they're appealing the recommendation of the zoning P&Z to grant this conditional use. You know, Mr. Smith said a lot of things today, so I'm going to try to keep it to that 15 minutes you asked about.
We appreciate it.
And in light of that, or as a part of that, Sebastian Graves, who's here today, he's executed an affidavit that I'd like to put in the record. He basically says that his family deeded the property to Chestnut Hill LLC, which was a predecessor in title to the current LLC that's owned by the Phillips. And he said it was a warranty deed from Sunny Place Trust to Chestnut Hill. You know, a lot of things Mr. Smith said today weren't exactly true, so just to set the record straight, let's do that. He told you about the provision in the deed that says the grantor acknowledges that grantee's plans include a commercial development on the property. What he didn't tell you is this conveyance is made subject to the following covenant, that for a period of 50 years from the date of this instrument, all uses and improvements on, it was a 10-acre tract, but this 5.0 acre tract is a part of that, will meet the standards of the Mansdale-Livingston Heritage Preservation District. This covenant runs with the land and shall be solely for the benefit of the immediately adjacent property owner owning fee simple title to the property presently owned by the grantor. That's what he didn't tell you. The Graves are the adjacent landowner, and they're here today to object to that. And the reason they object to it is because in the zoning ordinance for Madison County, and let's talk about whether it's the 2019 or the 2005 zoning ordinance. Your 2019 zoning ordinance is the one that's in effect. But the one that was in effect on the day the deed was drafted, and referenced the Mansdale Heritage Preservation District, that is the zoning ordinance that's effective as between the grantor and grantee, and that is the covenant running with the land. And that's what Mr. Graves' affidavit says. He says, it is the intent of the grantor and grantee that the MLHPD restrictive covenants then in effect in 2007 control the subject property for 50 years. So I'd submit to you that that's the operative, because that was the intent between the grantor and the grantee. So I'm glad Mr. Smith referenced your zoning ordinance, and once again, he failed to tell you all of the zoning ordinance. He referenced section 402 of the zoning ordinance that governs public and quasi-public facilities and utilities. He says that this is a quasi-public or public facility, and thus it's authorized by 402 of your zoning ordinance. What he didn't tell you was, he didn't read you the entire zoning ordinance. He read you what he wanted to tell you. He didn't read you C. And C says, no public or quasi-public facility or utility shall be located in any area where the proposed use would be incompatible with the surrounding land uses. I'd suggest to you today that an assisted living facilities is incompatible with the existing Livingston Township. Livingston Township is its restaurants, it's a bar, it's retail shops. Has nothing to do with any assisted living or any medical care. So I think you ought to hear from the constituents. How many people are here today on this matter, if you'd raise your hand? And of those people, how many of you oppose it? Raise your hand. Okay. So I'd like to put on a couple of quick witnesses. I just have a few questions of each one, but I think they live in the area, they work in the area, and they have something that I think will be beneficial to the board,
Okay.
if I may do that. The first one I'd like to call is Baxter Burns.
Hold on a second.
My objection, putting on witnesses and taking evidence, this is a public hearing, and I've never seen that in 45 years, and that's not, in my humble opinion, I don't think that's proper.
Good morning, Board. With regard to this question, so this is a public hearing. It's not a court hearing. So I think that we should follow our protocol. We don't know where this is going to end up. Perhaps it'll be litigated in circuit court. So as your attorney, I'm asking you, let's follow protocol. We don't want an attorney to call in witnesses. If the ones who want to speak can sign up to speak, then I think they should be called on by the president of the board. So we can continue with protocol, and I think that is proper for you and to protect you when we go to court. Now, the lawyers have to make a record. So I would ask you, as you've already done, not to hold them to 10 minutes, because one has already gone over that. So
Another one is working on it real close.
we know that. So, but they also are making their record, and it's in the record. And if it goes to circuit court, it needs to be in the record. So we don't want any lawyer calling in the witnesses. We want citizens to be recognized to speak. Thank you.
Mr. Watson, that's what we'll do is, I'll ask, once you're finished with what you're wanting to say to the board, then I will ask, are there anyone would like to come up and speak in favor of this at that point?
Well, you know, I'm trying to make a record, you understand that, because if we get an adverse ruling, it's going to go up on appeal. So, I mean, so.
I will ask after you finished.
Understood.
Would anyone like to come up and speak in favor of it?
Understood.
Again.
You know, another thing that is troubling, Mr. Smith talked about the minimum standards for personal care homes, residential living, minimum standards for personal care homes, assisted living. I too have read those and probably understand them as well as Mr. Smith does. But and part of the confusion is what kind of home or what kind of facility would they have? In the application, and I'm glad he cleared this up, in the application for certificate of appropriateness, they say personal residential assisted living, which led me to believe that it was not the assisted living regulations that they were attempting to be governed by, but it was the more controlling that had mental health as a part of that. So I'm glad he's cleared that up, that they won't have. So, but there won't be any, as I understand it, there won't be any skilled nursing here. He read you what they couldn't do. So all it is it'll be unskilled nursing, as I appreciate it, and it will be not operated between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. It'll be 24/7. They have beds there. They're spending the night there. You know, in the zoning ordinance of Madison County, and let's look at 2019's zoning ordinance. In it's section 1903, it prohibits hotels, motels, and boarding houses. Now, what do hotels, motels, and boarding houses all have in common? Overnight occupancy. There is no overnight occupancy in the Mansdale Livingston Historic Preservation District. That is why it was prohibited in section 1903. So I'd suggest to you, it's not an 8 to 8, it's 24/7, and they're spending the night. another thing that's concerning and that you ought to take note of is that this project has morphed. When it was first presented to you, it was presented to you as a luxury assisted living facility. He says today it's one building. It was initially proposed to P&Z, and you can ask Mr. Weeks or Mr. Clark as you can. It was going to be 5 different buildings, and he said possibly memory care. So he's going to use a small portion of this 5.08 acres to build this 13,200 square foot group home. But he's going to have it all subject to the conditional use, the entire 5.08 acres. So he's not going to have to come back to you in the future to build other facilities there, because if you accept his application as it is today, it covers the entire 5.08 acres. One other thing, and I know it's been said, if you'll just indulge me for a moment.
Okay.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Smith made a lot out of the fact that he presented that drawing to you that showed it as active senior living. It was not approved. That plat was not approved with the language active senior living. It had to be removed before the PUD could be approved. You can ask Mr. Clark to weigh in on that, or you can ask Mr. Weeks, or Rita McGuffey would be competent to testify about that. Contrary to what Mr. Smith said, this will adversely affect property values in the neighborhood, and there's a study and an article attached to the affidavit of Mr. Graves of that study that says that residential property within 1,000 feet of an assisted living facility will be adversely affected by that assisted living facility. I think Cherry Deddens is here today. She's a realtor that I'm sure you're all familiar with. She can speak to that as well. So we would suggest that the conditional use application is inappropriate because it is in effect a fancy boarding house, and that's all it is. No skilled nursing, no mental health care. It's a boarding house 24/7. It's not consistent with the character of the neighborhood. In fact, it is the exact opposite of the character of the neighborhood because Livingston is a wedding venue with the chapel there. They have entertainment, they have bands, they have festivals. So are these people going to be complaining at night because of the bands? I mean, nobody complains today about it. But if you put a 15-bed assisted living facility right next to it, and it's an entertainment district and a wedding and an event venue, it's like oil and water. It's not going to mix. So with that, I would ask the board to consider the fact that the Mansdale Livingston Historic Preservation District did not approve it. It's not consistent with the zoning ordinance for Madison County. It's not consistent with the character of the neighborhood. We suggest that it will adversely affect property values in the neighborhood and the adjoining landowners, the Graves, and we think it will also affect the commercial. So with that, we'd ask the board to deny the conditional use.
Before we move on to if anyone would like to speak in favor of or against, you handed out information. Who has that information? Okay, I would like to have a motion that you wanted to enter into the minutes.
I do.
Yeah.
Move.
I have a motion by Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second? Second Supervisor Baxter to enter into the minutes an affidavit, the way it reads, from Mr. Kevin Watson. So
I think it's several.
maybe.
And attached to it is a copy of the deed, as well as a copy of the article about the adverse effect that an assisted living home has within a half a mile of residential property.
There's several things.
And there is residential property within half a mile. Contrary to what Mr. Smith said, Mr. Burns, who is here, lives within half a mile of that proposed development.
We have a motion, have a second to enter this into the minutes. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Thank you, Mr. Watson. At this time, we would like to ask anyone that would like to speak in favor of this project, or favor. Anyone like to speak in favor of? If not, anyone that'd like to speak in opposition of?
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Baxter Burns. My wife and I live at 303 Hickory Bend in Chestnut Hill subdivision. We've lived there 3 years this month, built the house there, particularly to have access to Livingston. Our neighborhood has improved access that's for use by our neighborhood only to go back and forth to Livingston, and that's why I'm living there. I've lived in Jackson metro area for 67 years. This Monday, lived in all 3 counties. Could have pretty much lived anywhere if I wanted to, and I picked Livingston and Chestnut Hill. As Kevin mentioned, Livingston is an entertainment venue. That's why we go over there. They have outdoor concerts. They have outdoor festivals. Parts of it are changing hands now that the California folks have been declared bankruptcy or insolvent with that particular parcel and that particular property. We have new property people coming in that are going to be buying in there. I've spoken to them, what their desires are. They're buying the Gathering. They're going to be buying other additional properties, adjacent properties. They want to return it to the way Livingston started out, as an entertainment venue with county fairs and outdoor concerts by the lake. My wife and I sit out a lot of evenings after we come back from Livingston and sit on our patio and enjoy listening to the concerts and all of that comes over there. I don't think that the facility, the residents who are going to be in this assisted living facility are going to enjoy that. We do, and that's why we live there. That's pretty much, that's all. That's what I've got. Just, it doesn't fit the character of the neighborhoods, but bottom line.
Thank you, Ms. Byrne. Are there any others that would like to be opposed to it? Please come up.
Sure, yeah.
I forgot to mention a couple of minutes on this, by the way. Come on up, Sherry.
I'm not going to talk long.
Come on up and state your name and tell the board what you'd like to.
Hey, you timing me?
Nah.
Okay. We have great concern out there at Cherry Deadens. Thank you. I own a real estate company. Oh, thank you. We have great concerns out there because I need to tell y'all about something that's going on. I need to tell y'all something about what's going on out there now. There's an issue out there that we're all really worried about down the street from this location.
Ma'am, we would like to keep it on this location.
It pertains to this.
Okay, just make sure, because we want to keep it directly to the subject.
Sunnybrook Farm has leased a house down the street from it, and they have put in there, I guess it's sex trafficked girls who continue to escape at night and go to our neighbors to ask them to protect them and call the police, and they have been kidnapped and they have been taken out into the middle of the woods and nobody knows where they are. we just don't want to become the community that has that kind of reputation, an assisted living reputation, which could be turned into something else. We're just very worried about it. And we have on the books, in Chestnut Hill, they plan to do some cottages of Chestnut. It's been on the books from day one when it was laid out originally. We'd like to have cottages there for older people who want to sell their big houses and come in and live in a smaller area with a smaller yard. It will certainly affect the building of cottages of Chestnut. And I just think this location for an assisted living is better observed on the Nissan Parkway close to the hospital. Thank you.
Sherry.
Did I make it?
Sherry, the first statement or two was very serious, what you just said.
It is serious.
I think you probably need to talk with the sheriff.
Well, the sheriff knows about it. They've been out there multiple times.
Okay, well, we're going to leave it like that then, since they are handling it, unless the sheriff wants to say something, but. Sheriff,
We are aware. We are aware.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Others that's in opposition? Please state your name and give your address, please. And
good morning, members of the board. My name is Greta Mills. I live at 817 Arlington Street, Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm part of the Graves family that Mr. Smith talked about. And we have grave concerns about the proposal for a personal care facility in the Livingston area, as you just heard from Sherry. And when I first heard about this, I started a petition and circulated it around the Highway 463 and Highway 22, alerting landowners of what was proposed, which would be a personal care facility in the Livingston area that is so out of character with everything that is there. And we had we had so many people were in favor of the petition. I have printed them out. I would like to submit it for the record. These are the signatures of roughly 400 people from around Highway 22, 463, and they are from the subdivisions of Andover subdivision, Anderson Station, Chestnut Hill subdivision, Reunion, Lake Caroline, Noah's Mill, Stonebridge, just to list a few. They are opposed to a personal care facility in our area, and I'd like to ask if this could be part of the record. If I could bring it to you.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Both of them are the same?
They're different.
Okay.
Yes. Those are the signatures of people that oppose this facility. And I also received an email that was asked to be part of the record. I'd like to read that email from a Dr. Kurt Collins, who said, "I would greatly appreciate if my opinion could be read at the meeting and recorded in the minutes." What he says is, "I am extremely opposed to allowing the assisted living facility being built. Livingston is one of the most unique places in Mississippi, and I believe it has almost unlimited potential. An assisted living facility would take away from the Livingston community and decrease property values, possibly markedly decreasing Madison County tax revenue. Thank you very much for your time and consideration." I'll enter this later if that's okay. Dr. Collins expresses the sentiments exactly of so many of us in the Livingston area that have signed the petition. As you all know, we have one of the oldest Episcopal churches in the nation. It was built in the 1800s. We also have the Livingston Missionary Baptist Church, which was an African-American church built again in the 1800s. And we want to keep the integrity of this area. We do not want overnight occupancy, which is what this is, and we have every reason to fear what type of care this facility will bring down the road. About the overnight occupancy, which again this facility is strictly forbidden by the Mansdale-Livingston Heritage Preservation District. There are no overnight occupancies anywhere near the area, and we would like for it to keep that way. Also, the Phillips acreage came from my family in 2007, and based on that deed, it says specifically in clear language that the conveyance of 2007 is subject to the standards of MLHPD for a period of 50 years. Now, as Mr. Smith said, that his clients are very well aware, they know real estate, I'm sure they do. And if so, then they should have every reason to want to uphold the terms and limits of our warranty deed. We ask that they uphold it, and we ask you all that that these limitations are honored. So I'm gonna close by just saying one last thing. We have numerous reasons to object to this facility. We have no objections to new construction, as long as that new construction under this district meets the approval of MLHPD, which the Oaks clearly does not. So we do ask respectfully that the Board of Supervisors, as y'all are chief policymakers of this area, that they deny the proposal to build on the grounds that it is in clear violation of the terms and limitations of our 2007 deed. And we ask that the Board of Supervisors ask that the MLHPD recommendations for new structures be upheld to protect and enhance this very historic district in Madison County. Thank you so much.
Before you leave, though, I want to make sure we get the statement into the minutes that you asked. The statement from the person that you asked, is this a statement?
That is.
Okay, do I have a motion to put this statement in from Dr. Curtis L. Collins?
Yeah, move on that.
Got a motion by Mr. Banks. Do I have a second by Supervisor Griffin? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And also include the Livingston Springs Corridor Preservation Committee, Volume 1 and 2 into the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move on that.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll get back on schedule as far as anyone that would like to speak in favor or opposed. I'm sorry, opposed.
Yeah, we were on the opposed. Yeah.
We still on the opposed.
Thank you, Board. My name is Brian Eisenhood. I live at 157 Millhouse Drive in Madison. I have the Briar Patch out at Livingston. I own part of Cedar Rose and Palmetto. And, you know, I've talked with the Phillips, and with all due respect to everybody involved, we don't feel like this is a good fit for Livingston. You know, I have pretty much all my money tied up out at Livingston. I've been a part of their culture and all the things going on out there for almost 10 years now. And we just don't feel like this is a good fit for our community. You know, Livingston, I've watched it grow. I've seen it go backwards, forwards, and, you know, all areas in between there. But it's a special place. We have resort status. We have open cup. We have a ton of events out there. I think this year the farmers markets are going to be bigger and better than ever. My sister is over the chapel there, so they do a lot of weddings. There's a lot of events that take place. And with this concept of Livingston being a retail, dining, and an entertainment venue, I just think we need to be very careful what goes in there, because I don't think this is a good fit. And we don't feel that, with all due respect, their concept is going to benefit the town of Livingston, not in the way of business or in the way of the residential part of the area. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Please come up and state your name, give your address.
Good morning, Board. I'm Bridget Engel, and I own the Farmer's Table Cooking School in Livingston. I was actually the second building built out there. As Brian said, there are those of us that have put our life savings, blood, sweat, and tears into having our businesses in Livingston. I am one of those people that helps with the entertainment out there. We do have weddings, we have rehearsal dinners, we have 50th birthday parties. We have bands that go till 11 p.m. legally. So there is a concern about the noise factor, and if you've got people that are, whether it's 15 beds or 50 beds, I think that there will be a problem with those people not liking what is going with the noise that we have going on with everything that we're doing. But another question I have about that is, 10 years ago, when we were all out there building our establishments, we wanted to do a condo above one of the buildings in Livingston, and it was no. It was absolutely no. No one can live in this area. It was shot down, and there was an opportunity there where we could have had some very luxury condos and have some residential in Livingston. So my question is how did we change that directive? And if this facility, I'm not real sure right now, is it a retirement home? Because that's what was supposed to be proposed, or is it assisted living? And when you say assisted, what are you assisting? So if they can't put a catheter in, or they can't help these people with the problems that they have, what are they assisting with? And does it mean in front of my cooking school, I'm going to have ambulances coming by every 15 minutes trying to help these people that are going to need help, because obviously it's assisted. So we are an extremely family-oriented area. Like I said, I've been out there since the beginning, built the building, and have my heart and soul in it. This does not go with any of the plans that we were told was going to be done. We've had several things change out there already, and I just want and hope that you guys will help us keep what we have started out there, and those of us that have literally put everything into it, just to help us keep it a community. We have children running around from the candy store, to the park. There's a park there. And, stragglers do come out there, and we don't need any additional worries about that area and about the community that we have already strived to get where we are. So I am opposed to it, and just hope that you guys consider what we have out there right now and continue to try to make better.
Ma'am, just a couple of questions
Yes.
for you. You said that you would like to see residential above the buildings?
Well, no, actually, there was someone that tried to put a condo above one of the businesses, and it was knocked down completely, and we were told that, because there would be opportunity. My husband and I live off of 463, but, if we could get any closer to where we have our business, we would want to do the same thing. But, yeah, no, it was shot down, and we were told that there would never be anyone that would be able to spend overnight in the Livingston community.
Who actually shot
We went up against the board.
board?
Yeah.
Which one?
Probably the Mansdale. I mean, that was 10 years ago.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Are there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition? Please come up and state your name and give the address, please.
Morning. Excuse me. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name's Henry Graves, and my address is 2076 Southwood Road, Jackson, Mississippi, 39211. We touched on this earlier, but my family sold this land to Chestnut Hill LLC back in 2007. And we put in the deed the 50-year covenant, which basically says this conveyance is made subject to the following covenant for a period of 50 years from the date of this instrument. All uses and improvements on said 10.81 acre land will meet the standards of the Mansdale-Livingston Heritage Preservation District. Okay, well, the district's rules, as I'm sure y'all are familiar with, things that are expressly prohibited. 1903L says apartments and/or residential condominiums. So we're having a lot of trouble understanding why this is not in the category of an apartment. If you got 15 rooms under one roof, assume these people will be charged fees or rent or something. I don't think they're going to get to stay there for free. And, to us, it just seems like, why does this not qualify as an apartment or a residential condominium? So that's our main issue. We feel like this covenant is being ignored. This is land that we grew up on. And so, yes, that's why we're against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other would like to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
May I please speak? I am
Please come up and just state your name and address.
My name is Rita McGuffey, 1069 Cedar Hill Road, Madison, Mississippi. I am neither here to speak for or against the Oaks, but I do want to clarify a couple of things. I'm old. I've been around a long time. Not that y'all are old, but some of y'all have been around as long as I have in all this matter with Livingston. But back, they started talking about it the first part of, the 2000s. In 2007, it was zoned C2 under Mr. Landrum, who proposed 4 buildings on there. And then in 2009, they started talking about the idea of a PUD. It changed many, many times, and it was a work in progress. And in 2010, MLHPD received, I believe it was December the 1st, a general development plan that showed something that had not been shown before, and it was the active senior retirement on there. There was a lot of stir about that, and so in, I believe it was January 6th, 2011, which was maybe 5 weeks later, there was a revised provision that came before the Board of Supervisors, and came from before Planning and Zoning in January, and then at the February 7th, I believe, in 2011 meeting, the Board of Supervisors, after this senior retirement had been removed from it, voted for it. But the senior retirement was only even talked about for about 5 weeks in the whole history of the project, and it was not on there when the PUD was approved. So, and of course, on MLHPD, every time somebody comes to present a building, they put in a copy of the general development plan, and it has not been on anything since. Everything that has gone forward since then does not have that identified as senior living. So I just wanted to make that point. I mean, it's a point of fact, and I wanted to do that. And the other thing, if I may, just clear up for the record, MLHPD Commission did not meet after the denial. We have not had a called meeting. We have not reviewed the plan or anything. So a list of 6 items supposedly that came from MLHPD did not come from us. Because, I mean, we haven't, Mr. Clark, on the 10th, we did not, since we had duly voted and denied and closed the meeting, there were procedural issues about us opening it back up. And Mr. Clark, when I met with him, he said, we can either stand on our denial, or we can choose to revisit. And there was really, because he said, I asked if he considered it a reopening of something we'd already denied, and he said, well, no. And I said, is it a new proposal? And he said, well, no, it's just a revisit. So I went back and electronically canvassed the commission members, and we did not have the vote to revisit. And, definitely decided to stand on our denial. And procedurally, that was the way to go, since it had already been duly done and denied, and the motion and the meeting closed. So those are just to set the record straight on things, and thank you very much.
Rita, if you would, just maybe a couple of questions there.
Certainly.
Because that's really my concern, or one of the main concerns here that I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's really with MLHPD committee.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard 2 things. Of course, you may have given a couple of other reasons why, you turned it down. But my concern is, why didn't y'all take it back up and review it? And I heard what you just said. But, to me, if there's landscaping issues or side elevation issues or another 2 or 3, 4 issues that y'all had a concern about.
Right. And there were, okay,
Bring
I'm
it
sorry.
back up and review it. That's really the concern I had, because I haven't heard you say one thing that it doesn't fit the character. I haven't heard you say that at all.
Well,
and you've been up twice.
Mr. Steen, what happened during the meeting is the final meeting that we had, Mr. Phillips, when we were in the middle of our review, demanded that we just vote now, just say yes or no, and we voted.
Okay, but when they come back and ask for a review, I'm still a little confused why y'all wouldn't take it back up if they have addressed the issues that y'all had concerns with.
The fact that we were not given a certificate of appropriateness
Right.
to know the exact use. We were not given a conditional use. And at the time we voted, the appropriateness of the use, we were not able to address, because we did not have anything, substantial on that they, and we had reviewed it 4 different times, and he said, just tell us right now, vote, just tell us right now. We voted, and we did our duty, and we closed the meeting, and procedurally, it's very difficult to take something back up under Robert's rules. And we vote as a commission who had been in all 4 meetings, and things that we had asked for, repeatedly had not been addressed or, anywhere.
They would come back and address the issues that y'all had concerns with. Would y'all come back and revisit?
Well, we're in the same place we were then. I mean, procedurally, we did not have the vote to open it back up.
Well, again, my question is, if they come back and answer to questions or concerns that the committee had, and I just know of 2 or 3, and if they came back and said, hey, these are the answers to your questions or your concerns, would y'all reconsider and rehear it?
Well, we've already taken it to the commission and have a vote on it.
The Planning and Zoning Board approved it.
Right.
They approved it. And so the biggest concern I have is with y'all's committee. That's the biggest concern I hear today is with y'all's committee. And because I think if y'all would have done your due diligence and really set it out in the minutes why you objected to it, then I think we all could understand a little clearer why we're here today. But y'all chose to pass the buck, kind of the way that I'm reading it and listening today is, y'all just didn't want to take it back up.
No, sir, that was not, we went by the procedural rules. And, it was a very, very complicated issue. And yes, but the motion did say it was incomplete, and it was, there were, and then named the other 2 things. And,
Again,
that's true.
this one supervisor, when you said that, hey, we can't take it back up, that's just like telling me that, hey, we just don't want to deal with it. We just don't want to fool with it anymore. And so that's just from one supervisor now, and I'm listening today very clear. And again, I haven't heard you say that it doesn't fit the character. And that's what I'm hearing a lot of people in here say, the attorney was saying, something similar to that. So, I'm hearing from you that that's not the reason that it was denied.
No, sir, that's not true. As far as the character of the neighborhood goes, that was what information that we did not get from them would have been essential for us to do that. And after we had tried to get it on several occasions, and we were asked to take a vote at that particular time, and we did.
I appreciate that. Respect that very much so, Rick.
Excuse me. Okay, so the statement about it being incomplete, that's what you're referring to
Yes,
right
sir.
there? 'Cause that's
Yes,
what
sir.
I want
Yes,
to
sir.
find out.
And it was incomplete, just on a lot of things that we just couldn't get answers to, when we would ask directly.
Got personal, sounds like it was because if the person that's asking for your approval then just tells you just go ahead and vote, they must didn't want your approval because if you still asking questions that they had not completely.
Right. We didn't have all of our information, and it's just we're under Robert's rules, and you have to have a certain number, to reintroduce something, and we didn't have the vote. From people who had been there through all 4 meetings,
You said this general development plan here that has active senior retirement.
Yes, sir.
That's no longer a
No,
part
sir.
of the development
Oh, no, sir.
plan?
It was taken off in January 6th, I believe, of 2011.
No.
Yeah, and it wasn't even proposed until December 1st, 2010. So it was only on there for like 5 weeks.
Okay.
out of this whole thing since it first started,
Now, I've heard a lot of, different people coming up and saying that if a retirement or assisted living home was placed there, that the entertainment portion of Livingston, the people that come into the assisted living probably wouldn't like it. Of course, I'm thinking that we're talking about assisted living people being part of the retirement community. One of the gentlemen that got up and spoke, he looked to be in that headed in that direction, and he and his wife love it. They sit out on the patio and listen. I know I'm in that direction, so I like good music too. But
well, one point is that just occurred to me now that you're talking about it. Anybody that has brought a business into Livingston would have seen how the PUD was actually approved under and would not have had any idea that that would have been senior living. So, that's another thing about it. But, yeah.
Yeah, we take a bathroom break.
That's not up to me.
I think everybody been doing
Thank
it.
Hold on one second. Yes, ma'am.
I have one more very quick thing to say. It won't take long at all.
But state your name again.
Yes, Greta Mills. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. I'm a property owner in Madison. And the talk about who should have done what and why didn't they do certain things at certain times, out of the most respect, gentlemen, we can ask you all the same thing, because in our 2007 deed, it says specifically that the deed is subject to the standards of MLHPD for a period of years. As you all know, they denied the proposal. And speaking of Mr. Clark, as the attorney of the Planning and Zoning Commission, has specifically stated that the restrictions of the deed are without question binding. And I ask you all, why are we here? They should be binding and they should be honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any others that would like to speak in opposition? Are there any others while she is repaired? Okay, if not, at this point, we're gonna have this, where's Andy?
Right there?
Do we have any questions for Andy at this time, the board?
Well, I'm still.
Andy, come on up.
Yeah, come on up here, because I'm still wrestling with, with the young lady that's out of the Gray family, the deed.
The deed?
Yeah. Now, and I understand what she just said. So if they didn't get past Mansdale Livingston and the deed had that 50-year thing on it, it ain't been quite 50 years since 2007. How did they get past planning and zoning?
Well, if you're asking my opinion and what I told the commission, excuse me, is she's correct. The deed says what it says. And the Mansdale Livingston Historic Preservation District portion of the ordinance, no doubt applies to the property. I don't think there's any question about that. I do think that Mr. Smith was correct that the appropriate ordinance or the appropriate rendition of the Mansdale Livingston portion of the ordinance that applies is today's. It's 2019 ordinance. The ordinance clearly states that each time one is passed, it repeals the previous one. what that deed lacks, in my opinion, is any specific covenants or separate covenants, separate and apart from what the MLHPD district said at the time and as it is moved forward. But the applicable portion is today's portion of the ordinance. If you guys pass the new ordinance next month, that would be the one that applies.
So that 50 years go away with what you said?
No, sir, it doesn't go away. It regardless of what the ordinance, well, I mean, I'm assuming 50 years from now, you're still going to have a Madison County zoning ordinance, and I presume that it would still have the MLHPD district in there. But that changes with each adoption of the ordinance. Whatever the ordinance, the current ordinance says as to MLHPD is what applies to that property. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hold on one second, Andy.
And
Yes, sir.
that makes sense. But still,
What doesn't make sense?
the deed says that whoever buys that property, whatever they want to do with that property, it's got to be approved by MLHPD.
No, sir. Doesn't, it
But where is
says
that?
it will conform to the standards of MLHPD. Again, back to our ordinance, our section of the ordinance dealing with MLHPD and the ordinance as a whole. Like I said earlier, approvals or disapprovals between MLHPD and planning and zoning are mutually exclusive. And what I mean by that is MLHPD can approve it, planning and zoning can disapprove it. Vice versa. MLHPD can turn it down, planning and zoning can approve it. The ultimate decision maker are you five gentlemen that are sitting up there. MLHPD is a recommendation committee, as is planning and zoning. Now, those aren't to be glossed over. Both committees are there for a reason, as we do kind of the legwork and then bring our recommendations to you for the ultimate approval. As far as compliance with the MLHPD ordinance, I have briefed that, and in a letter to Mr. Watson, and I think Mr. Smith referenced that earlier, and it's in front of you now. And it does answer all of those questions with regard to boarding house, apartments, condominiums, those types of questions. And my opinions are contained in that letter. If you'd like to hear them now, I don't want to take up any more of your time, but they're there.
Yeah, we need to hear that.
Okay,
but
all right.
again,
As far as a boarding house that Mr. Watson referenced to, I think that was pulled from the 2005 ordinance, where it is defined there as a building other than a hotel or motel where for compensation and by prearrangement by definite periods, meals and or lodging are provided for 3 or more but not exceeding 12 persons other than family members on a weekly or monthly basis. See also rooming house. And I write here that when the 2005 zoning regulations mention but do not define rooming house or lodging house, I'm of the opinion that the inclusion of the term house and the parenthetical to include family members implies a residential use where a person or family lives in the building as their primary residence, but rents out rooms and provides meals to renters. Furthermore, the definition imposes a 12-person maximum in order to be considered a boarding house. Conversely, the Oaks is not a residential use. The property is zoned as a planned unit development, or a PUD, superimposed over C1 General Commercial District designation. Current applications for an assisted living facility, such as permissible as a conditional use for a public, quasi-public facility in a C1 district, or any district for that matter. Furthermore, at the August 10, 2003 meeting of Madison County Planning and Zoning Commission, applicant presented the Oaks as a 15-bed assisted living facility to assist seniors with various activities of daily living, which include far more than just lodging and food. As such, I'm of the opinion the Oaks does not and cannot fall under the definition of a boarding house, even if the 2005 zoning regulations were the governing criteria. Instead, I am of the opinion that the Oaks would be a convalescent home, parenthetical rest home, or nursing home under the 2005 zoning regulations as those terms are defined there. As for apartments, condos, multifamily dwelling, I define those here, and I do not want to read those to you because they are contained in the ordinance, but I opine that it cannot be considered an apartment because the facility is not a multifamily structure in a residential building. Rather, it is a proposed commercial building in a commercial designated district. Such use is only appropriate and may only be approved by an application for conditional use. The proposed assisted living facility cannot be considered a condominium, as the residents there will not own any interest in any portion of the real property. That is comparing the definition of a condo. It's important to note here that apartments and condominiums are only allowed in certain residential zoning designations. They're not permitted in commercial zoning designations. As such, that's the reason that nursing homes, convalescent homes, rest homes, assisted living facilities are only permitted as a conditional use for a public, quasi-public facilities and utilities in all zoning designations, including commercial designations. I apologize for reading to you. I don't normally like to do that, but because of the length of those, I wanted to do so.
So, I've got a question real quick. So, section 1903, other uses expressly prohibited, that section, it goes A through S. Everybody keeps bringing up the L apartments, the O hotels, boarding houses, whatnot. Why is nobody bringing up the last statement of this section? This list of prohibited uses is not all-inclusive, as other uses may be deemed inappropriate upon review by the MLHP overlay district and the Madison County Board of Supervisors, and therefore are prohibited. In other words, it makes the whole list pointless. They can pick and choose what they want regardless of the list.
I think.
Is that not correct?
Yeah, you just read it. You just read it correctly. But I think back to Mr. Steen's point, and as Ms. McGuffey just stated here, I don't really know that there was any discussion from MLHPD as to the use. As she said, they rested on their denial as it being incomplete. So, I mean, I think you're right, Supervisor Brannon, is that it's not an exhaustive list. But again, that decision will ultimately fall to the 5 of you guys.
Putting myself in their shoes, why would they feel the need to say, if they've already denied it based on incompleteness, what is the point of reopening and saying, oh, now that it's complete, we're going to deny based on use? They've already denied it, case closed.
And that's what they did.
And so why would it matter that they didn't deny it based on use? They denied it. We, as a board, can ignore that.
You're right.
They are a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors who may accept or reject the recommendations.
You're right.
I don't live there. I spent Monday night driving through the ice and rain to drive through this area to look around because I don't routinely get past Madison Middle School on Highway 463, so I'm not familiar. But, you know, it's a nice building. It looks pretty, but they don't want it. So my opinion is that I would defer to the people who live there if they don't want it.
Yeah, I'm going to go back again. I'm going to read this right quick on the deed. And you did say this. At the bottom, it says, this conveyance is made subject to the following covenants for a period of 50 years from the date of this instrument. All uses and improvements on said 10.81 acre tract, which is this tract we're talking about, parcel 2 on Exhibit A, will meet the standards of the Mansdale Livingston Heritage Preservation District, will meet the standard. This covenant runs with the land and shall be solely for the benefit and immediate adjacent property owner holding fee. It doesn't say it has to be approved by them.
That's correct.
And that's what you said earlier.
Right.
And I go back again. My biggest concern is with Mansdale Livingston Heritage Preservation Committee. That's where it should have been discussed very thoroughly. A decision should have been made and put in the minutes very clear. And we don't have that today. And out of due respect to Miss Rita, that's been up twice, and I'm still getting this incomplete. Why wouldn't they ask, this is what the issue is, regardless what the issue may be? Don't disagree with what Supervisor Brandon is saying. Be very clear, this is what the issue is. Let them know this, and they either can come back and comply with it, or they can't comply with it, and then that board votes it up or down.
That's right.
And that's what I don't see here. That's what concerns me more than anything else. I hear everybody else in favor or against, and the attorneys. I get that part. But it should have been settled right there on the spot. Right there on the spot. And it wasn't. And that's the reason we're here today. That's the reason we're having this today. So, anyway, other questions?
And I guess that goes back to what you just read, and what I've been trying to raffle with here is one of the major things I thought that came up, it would have been in the deed. But the deed only talks about meeting standards, and we feel that we haven't heard from the Mansdale Livingston Heritage Preservation District a fact that standards were not met. It's just incomplete.
Yeah, they didn't say anything about the standards wasn't met or doesn't fit the character.
Yeah.
It didn't say anything of that nature. And so that's where it really should have been handled right there, to give the Planning and Zoning Board a direction as well, and the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I asked if they went back and answered the incompleteness, would they go back and revisit? I think I got the answer no, and I don't understand why not, if they wanted to do that. And so, but it's here today for this board to make a decision.
Yes, sir.
That's basically what it amounts to. Other questions to Andy at this point, and I would like to just give 5 minutes to each of the attorneys for closing, just for closing. I won't use the word arguments, but just for closing.
Rebut.
Yeah,
So, Counselor, it's your opinion that the deed restrictions don't apply after the property's been sold?
They apply. They certainly apply, but they don't prohibit, they do not prohibit approval if in fact that is yours or anybody else's hang up on approval, that it's my opinion that it does not prohibit that approval.
Okay, and it's also your opinion that the Mansdale Overlay District is just advisory?
Yes, sir.
It's all that.
As is planning and zoning.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
You
Other
bet.
questions? If not, Mr. Smith, I would like to, let's just give a good 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes, maybe 4 minutes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And Mr. Watson, I'll do the same with you.
Mr. Banks, you're right to question the wording of the deed, but let me tell you this. This deed, or any law in Mississippi, has the right to affect or restrict any zoning ordinance this body would adopt, period. And Mr. Watson didn't give you any legal authority that says any wording in any deed or any other contract or document has the right to restrict what you as a body adopt as your new zoning ordinance. So as Mr. Clark was indicating to you, and as he said, it may be subject to meet the standards of the Mansdale-Livingston Heritage Preservation District. Well, the standards may have been one thing in '05, they may be something different today. And today, 2019 zoning ordinance controls. That's the long and short of it, and that's the law in Mississippi. I failed to advise you on our hours of operation. When I said 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I'm exactly correct. But what I also meant to say was those are hours where the residents can be visited, period. Not before 8 a.m. and not after 8 p.m., which is well within 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., which is in the Mansdale-Livingston ordinance. They're worried about the complaints we may have about a band or a wedding or something else. You don't think Mr. and Ms. Phillips have thought about that? You don't think their loan officer, their bank, has thought about that? We all know, we don't have to be an architect or a contractor to know, there's extra soundproofing in every assisted living facility, nursing home, call it what you will. That's our bailiwick. If we don't like the band, we're 2.5 football fields away from it. We'll take our chances. If they're allowed to have a band at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, under the ordinances, they're allowed to have it. That's something we have to bear. It's not a reason to deny our application. It's an entertainment venue. It's going to take away from the development, and it's just not a good fit. I don't hear any substantive basis in anything any of the objectors stated that gives you a reason to deny our application. Nothing. We've met every aspect of the ordinance. We've met every request by Mansdale-Livingston. Every one of them. And so when you look in the deed, do we meet the standards? They gave us 2 in their minutes, we met them. They came back with 6 more, and we met them. So you can't say that. They can't say that with a straight face. And they darn sure don't have any evidence in this record to that effect. The only evidence in this record that's worth looking at are the minutes of the Mansdale-Livingston meeting when they had those 2 little bases in there to deny us. It's otherwise called parole evidence. You can't get up here and talk about all these things that were done when they're not in your minutes, and the law in Mississippi says they got to be there. I want to point out one other thing, and this is a point of information for this board, and it is a point of admonition to the objectors. And it's a short paragraph. Oftentimes, like in this case, governments can run afoul of the Fair Housing Act when considering the fears and prejudices of community members in applying zoning laws regarding housing. I submit to you that's exactly what you've heard here today. The Fair Housing Act prohibits a broad range of housing practices and discriminates against individuals on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, disability. That's what we're here about today. As established by the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, federal laws, such as the Fair Housing Act, take precedent over conflicting state and local laws. The Fair Housing Act thus prohibits state and local land use and zoning laws, policies, and practices that discriminate based on characteristics protected under the Act and as defined under the Act. And it prohibits against any public body making these accommodations unavailable by denying housing because of disability. Housing includes not only buildings, gentlemen, but intended for the occupancy of residences, but also vacant land that may be developed into residences. I just submit to you today, when you sit here for a second and reflect back upon the substance of what the objectors told you, you don't have any real reason. None of them said, not one of them said, this building is out of character. It doesn't go. It doesn't fit the neighborhood. I don't think any of you in all good conscience could say that. It's a lot nicer and better than most of the buildings out there today. You got 12 elderly people in an assisted living facility, and that's going to somehow ruin Livingston? Really? That's not believable. In fact, I think the real reason is they don't want people with disabilities living there. They don't want your parent or your grandparent there. But yet they have their parents or grandparents in assisted living facilities. So with all due respect, I think this board has to look at the facts before it. I think not granting our conditional use based on everything this board has heard today would be arbitrary and capricious. We have tried to present, and we have presented, documentation of everything we've presented to this board today. And as Mr. Clark has told you, we respectfully submit that we are entitled to have our application for conditional use approved as being a public, quasi-public facility that is allowed in the C1 zoned area, and as would be allowed in every other zoning area in the county. Thank you very much for your time.
Ms. Smith, just one question for me to you. It was brought up about the skilled nursing. What kind of skilled nursing will be there on the site, if any at all?
There will be nursing at the home. Skilled nursing is defined under the regulations. Skilled nursing, it goes along the lines of a lot of those types of residents that we would not be allowed to be housed because they do require skilled nursing services, and skilled nursing services have to be approved by a physician and have to be specific in nature. The other thing is we would not be allowed to have more than 2 wheelchair residents in our facility at any time. That's 1.5 per 15, which would be a maximum of 2. So we could not have more than 2 in our unit. And so the skilled nursing is just not allowed in our facility. Our facility is nothing like they portrayed to you that it is, and nothing like it is designed for under the regulations.
Mr. Smith, give me your definition of assisted living.
The term assisted living shall mean the provision of personal care and the addition of supplemental services to include, but not be limited to, the provision of medical services, i.e. medication procedures and medication administration and emergency response services. That's out of the state regulation. I have the definition for personal care if you'd like that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Watson?
Yes, Mr. Griffin, you asked the right question. So let me give you the right answer.
All right, do that.
I said it's not going to be skilled nursing. What he didn't tell you was, he didn't tell you what they were going to provide. And here's what they can provide. Here's the assisted living homes, minimum standards. It defines personal care, and just like I said before, the term personal care shall mean the assistance rendered by personnel of the licensed facility to residents in performing one or more of the activities of daily living, including but not limited to bathing, walking, excretory functions, feeding, personal grooming, and dressing. It's not even a fancy boarding house, gentlemen. It's a boarding house, is what it is. You know, we're talking at cross purposes about which zoning or which version of the zoning ordinance applies. Today, the 2019 zoning ordinance, that's the one thing Mr. Smith and I can agree upon, that is the operative zoning ordinance in Madison County today. But if you'll look at that affidavit by Sebastian Graves that says in 2007, when we executed this deed, it's in his affidavit, it's sworn to, he says, we meant to be governed by the Mansdale-Livingston Historic Preservation District regulations in effect at the time. That's what he says. So that's a contract between two people, and it's a covenant that runs with the land. And they should have looked into that before they bought this piece of property. If they'd have researched that, the Graves would have said that covenant inures to our benefit, and we expect you to abide by it. Today you've heard, you haven't heard anybody stand up here today, absent the man that's getting paid by the Phillips, in favor of this. You had a room full, and not a soul came up here and said, no, we think it fits the character of the neighborhood and we think it would help Livingston. Not a one. You also got a petition signed by 400 people in all the surrounding neighborhoods that say, we don't think it fits the character of the neighborhood. I think the people have spoken. You know, again, if you look at your zoning ordinance, and let's look at your zoning ordinance 402C. It's your ordinance. It says, no public or quasi-public facility or utility shall be located in any area where the proposed use would be incompatible with surrounding land uses. That means the people that live in the area and the people that operate businesses in the area. You heard Bridget Engel, who runs a cooking school. You heard Brian Eisenhood, who has the Briar Patch and has 2 other retail establishments. You heard the Graves, who neighbor that property. They're against it. It's prohibited by section 1906 of the current zoning ordinance, and it's prohibited by section 1603 of the 2005 zoning ordinance that was in effect and operative in 2007 when the deed was executed. It's not that we don't think the facility doesn't look nice. We just don't like the use to which it's going to be put, the purpose. You know, and just to clear the record, we're not against disabled people. That's not why we're here today. And just to be real clear about that too, Mr. Smith didn't tell you this, but age is not a disability, because if it is, there'd be a lot of us in this room that would be disabled. So age is not a disability. And as far as I know, there's been no Fair Housing Act application applied for on this facility. So it's not a disability that it's not the disability that we're objecting to. It's the fact that it doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood, and these people were there first, and it's incompatible, to use the language out of your ordinance, it's incompatible with surrounding land uses. So with that, gentlemen, we'd suggest that it's absolutely appropriate that you deny this conditional use and listen to the constituents that have objected here today. It's nothing more than a boarding house and not a fancy one at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Mr. Clark, let's go back up and are there any questions to Mr. Clark from the
Hey,
board?
I got a question for him. Tell me, you say deed restrictions don't apply from owner to owner. Tell me about easements. They apply on a deed from owner to owner, and what's the difference?
No, deed restrictions do apply from owner to owner. Absolutely, they do.
Okay, well,
This is not a restriction in the sense, in my opinion, this does not prevent you from approving this if that's what you choose to do as a board. I'm not saying that it's not an applicable deed restriction. I'm not saying that it should be thrown out or that it doesn't apply. I'm just saying it doesn't restrict you from approving it if that's what you choose to do.
Because of the wording of the deed restriction, or what?
Yes, it says that it will comply with whatever the exact language is. That it'll the Mansdale Livingston meet the standards, right?
The attorney that originally worded the deed, in your opinion, made a mistake.
No, I don't think he made a mistake. I think he could have gone a step further. I mean, if he said, and I'm just throwing pie in the sky here, understand me. If he had said, this property shall never be used as a assisted living facility or a personal care home or whatever, that's a different conversation. That's a different meeting. That's a different thought process.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the answer.
But what if you said
I'm sorry.
What if you said then the whatever they want to do, the activity should be approved by the Mansdale Livingston Heritage District? If he'd have said that, wouldn't be the same.
No, I don't think it would matter, is because, I mean, it's not, again, they're an advisory committee.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take their advice, leave their advice. You can take the advice of the Planning and Zoning Commission or leave the advice of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So this deed restriction really doesn't mean anything.
Oh, it does mean things. It means a lot. It means that that in the sense that anything would have to get the approval of Mansdale Livingston? No, sir. If that were the case, if that's what it said, that would be, in my opinion, not upheld by a court of law. What Mr. Espy was saying a minute ago, if the predecessor in title, being Chestnut Hill, or the current owners, the Phillips and the Graves, as to what the exact meaning of the language in the deed means, that is a private lawsuit between those parties, not between them and the Board of Supervisors. You're making the decision today based on what you read in the deed and what your attorneys and advisors advise you that they believe that it means.
You know, we do have this board out there, the Mansdale Preservation Board. You know, and we do listen and to what they say, as well as our Planning and Zoning Board and the other boards that we have. And again, I'm going to go back to what I've heard Ms. Rita Guffey say, or she didn't say, that it didn't fit the character. That's what I was expecting to hear. And, you know, and that's really one of the main issues here. You know, does it fit the character? And when I say fit the character, I'm talking about in many different ways, not just one as far as looks. But does it just fit out there? And that's where they did not do that due diligence to really come back and give some directions in what they thought. And I say they, I'm talking about the board out there. And so you know, again, that's where I'm most disappointed at this point. If they would have given some direction, then everybody would have known, hey, this is where the community stands. This is where the community stands. But they didn't. Or at least I do not have it in front of me. They may have, but I do not have it in front of me. And then they chose not to revisit.
Correct.
To clarify what they didn't clarify to start with. So,
Correct.
All right, I think, any other questions for Mr. Clark? If not,
thank
we
you,
have
gentlemen.
a lot of info, and before I move off of this, from the two attorneys, are there anything in the minutes that we did not include that you would like to include?
I just want to make sure that my documents that I gave out to everybody are included and made a part of the minutes.
Mr. Lott, you have,
You have a packet.
Along with this.
Yes.
you have that in the
I do
minutes?
not have that.
Okay, got a motion Supervisor Baxter, do I have a second? Second Supervisor Banks to include the picture, design, drawing of the oaks in the minutes. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ms. Watson?
Two other things. One, the minimum standards for personal care homes, assisted living, the definition of personal care, which I read to you, which is, I think, pertinent to this. Also, a copy of the 2005 Article 16 of the Livingston Heritage Preservation District, that pertinent portion of the zoning ordinance that I got from Mr. Weeks last week. I'd like to put that in the record as well.
You have both of them there?
I do.
Move.
Got a motion, Mr. Banks, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Baxter, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Watson.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Got a motion to close the public hearing by Supervisor Griffith, second Supervisor Banks. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Public hearing is now officially closed. All right, board members, what are your thoughts at this point?
Confused. Still confused. You know, we've got a lot of good information from both sides, and it's kind of what I heard, and I guess what I was interested in, trying to get exactly how this deed restriction affected them, and now told by two attorneys that basically we don't have anything to do with the deed restrictions as much as the parties of the deed have to do with the deed restrictions. They're the ones that that can either go to court, if they feel strongly about this deed restrictions, they can go to court and settle that issue themselves. Our job now is to deal with the zoning. And we've had a few people that came up that to meet our parties to the deed. We had two lawyers to come up. Then we have one realtor to come up that was more interested in what's going on somewhere else as opposed to this actual situation here. I'm not convinced that that what the activity of an assisted living for people that need assisting to live is a bad activity for the Livingston area over there. Matter of fact, I think they'll enjoy the good music, they'll enjoy the farmer's market, and they'll enjoy the local restaurants that are close by. Just like the people at the Blakes. So I'm at this point, the only thing I can do is make a motion to go ahead and approve.
We have a motion on the table to approve. Do we have a second? All right, the motion dies for lack of second
Good.
at this point.
Now, what everybody think?
Well, again, I would like for the Mansdale Preservation District to go back and revisit this. I think it needs to be cleared up at that level. At that level. And if they choose not to do it, then that's another discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But just to drop the ball and not get the information that y'all need to listen, because y'all are representing the community out there as well. The Planning and Zoning Board agreed. They're in favor of this. So I would make the motion to ask to go the Mansdale Preservation District to revisit this and take it back up and see if see what kind of outcome that may come at that point. That would be my motion on the table.
I can second that motion, but I certainly would want a complete finding from Mansdale instead of, something they were incomplete. What were they incomplete about? That could have been more specific as opposed to what we were given. That's all.
And that is a recommendation from that board, just like the board, the Planning and Zoning Board is a recommendation. I like the facility. As far as the facility, I like the facility. And, and I don't see an issue with the facility. I don't see an issue with it not fitting in out there personally. But I just think that the Mansdale Preservation District Board should have done their due and clarified a lot clearer than what we have here in our minutes.
I would like to make a substitute motion. Really is to deny it. I think Mansdale, they basically, I can't speak for them, but I think they basically telling us they don't agree with it because that's the reason they didn't revisit. If they revisit, it's gonna still come out that they don't support it.
But that's okay. It would come out, I would think and hope, why it doesn't fit the character, because this is not going to be the only project that comes in front of us. And so and the reason I'm asking for it to go back is because, hey, we could be here 6 months again with another project with them doing the same thing. And then we'll sit here and listen and try to make a decision on what we do. And that's the only reason I'm asking for it to go back. But anyway, you have a substitute motion to deny it.
Yep.
Okay.
And because I was just thinking if I was taking my mom to assisted living, the building area, nice, but I wouldn't take her to that area because it's an entertainment area. My mom loved music, but it was gospel music. She probably wouldn't want to hear that music. And my reason might not be the legal reason, but it's the heartfelt reason.
Mm-hmm.
This is the area where if you need assisted living, that I feel, it shouldn't be there. Everyone needs assisted living area. One day probably gonna have to need it, but not in that area. Those are just a few personal reasons why I think it don't fit the area.
Okay, we have
Bring up a good point.
Hold on 1 second.
Or ambulance.
We have a motion on the table, substitute motion on the table to deny it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second. Discussion.
I think he brings up a valid point. I didn't look into this, but where's the closest hospital? How long of a ride is it from where a fire station or an ambulance parking station Is it to that facility and then to care? Please speak.
That's a good question.
Hi, Chad Phillips. Merritt right there off of I-55 is 12 minutes away.
So how far, so that's 12 minutes to the facility once they're called. How far is it to emergency?
Well, they could be anywhere in the area. You can't just say it's 12 minutes, but it is 12 minutes from the facility to the nearest hospital.
12 minutes from the facility to the nearest hospital.
Correct. When you Google map it, it's 12 minutes. Yes, sir. I made sure because I wanted the due diligence.
Have you driven this?
Yes, sir. I
And
absolutely have.
Have you driven it at
Have you
3 o'clock in the afternoon? Have you driven it at 8 a.m.?
I can't say I've driven it every time
I'm
of the
just
day.
saying those are, heart attacks don't happen when school is not in session.
True.
I don't know if you've been, I don't know about the rest of 463, but,
Well, it's down 22. It's not down 463.
It's pretty.
Yes, 22 is going to, you get the same traffic pretty much.
I take somebody who drives
24
out there
hours.
to work for it. I just know that traffic is pretty much a concern everywhere in this county. So 12 minutes might be doable at 1 a.m. Is it doable at?
If you're in the ambulance and you can bypass traffic, I believe it can be.
Okay, on a 2-lane road?
I won't speak to it, but I would hope the bystanders driving would pull
I
over.
think that's enough as
Just,
far as, we all know.
you're right,
about-
you're right.
We all know about
Wait,
traffic.
Mr. Phillips, I got a question. Do you guys own any other facilities?
We personally do not, but we're part of a large network that has about 10,000 plus of these throughout the United States of America. They've been very successful. It's a new model that Mississippi hasn't quite seen, but we're doing a luxury approach to assisted living. My heart and soul is for seniors with disabilities. I'm currently the RN supervisor at the Madison Health and Rehab. I take care of these people every single day. And I, by the grace of God, have my purpose here on earth. And I'm so excited to be able to do that for the rest of my life. And I have the ability to have an impact on these seniors with disabilities for the duration of their life if they want to stay in my facility, which I hope they do, because I have a lot of amazing plans for them that you're not going to get at St. Catharines or the Blake or other places that are a lot larger. We plan on customer service being the highest and top priority, and some unique features within the facility itself.
It's a shame you didn't speak earlier.
I believe, like I said, God has called me for this purpose, and I believe this is the right property for it. Families are going to love coming out here to spend time with their matriarch, patriarch of their family. Take them over to get ice cream at the ice cream shop, spend time in the Mexican restaurant as a family, and be able to safely bring them home. And one thing we didn't touch on is assisted living. You get 85% of your residents within 15 miles of that residence. We want to service that portion of the county. There are no options for these disabled seniors unless they're in their individual home, which can cost $10,000 plus every single month to take care of someone, which that's not an option for most people. I want to give an option for people with disabilities to live in the community they love, they grew up in, they have spent their entire lives in. I'm from Madison. I grew up here. I love this area. Madison County is so special in so many ways. All I want is to be an amazing asset to our community and serve our community with a need that they have to have. We're 30 plus beds short on assisted living right now. It's only going to increase another, forget the top of my head, another 30-something% according to my market study. We don't have the beds for these people. If you've tried to get a loved one into the Blake, into any assisted or memory care places, ask them how long their wait list is, because they don't have beds available. It's a wait list. I'm trying to help our community and serve them. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm not trying to devalue property. This multi-million-dollar building is going to be gorgeous, and it's going to serve our community. Since when did taking care of our seniors, disabled seniors, become so controversial? It hurts my heart because I love this community. I want the best for it. And it saddens me to see the leaders in our community say, You know, disabled seniors, they need help, just not in this area. I hope someone else can come and fill this gap and put it somewhere in our county. Because as of right now, where else am I going to put it? Besides a beautiful piece of property, an amazing area that can allow families to enjoy life together as long as you have with your mother and your father. One day they're not going to be here. I want you to spend as much time with them in a loving, beautiful place as possible. And that's where I stand.
Yep, I think you should have saved your money on hiring a lawyer and came up and spoke for yourself.
Exactly. If that had started with that instead of your lawyer, we'd be in a different place. Can I withdraw my second?
You can.
You can withdraw your second.
I withdraw my second.
All right, we still have a motion on the table to deny, do we?
I will take that motion off.
All right, we have a motion. We have no motions on the table at this point.
I think we have
Yeah,
a motion you made.
Your motion.
My motion to send it back, that's right.
I'd like to send back that,
Decision with the Mansdale Preservation.
I want my 3 hours of life back listening to those lawyers.
We do have a motion, thank you, Mr. Lott. We do have a motion on the table to send it back to the Mansdale Preservation District to hopefully, and I'm looking, you know, at Rita, that they would take this up seriously and do their due diligence for the community. Because we've heard a lot of pros, we heard a lot of cons to it. But at the end of the day, if my motion passes, take it up and y'all visit this, and I'm talking about within the next 2 weeks. Visit this and do your due, and I think you're gonna get some answers if it passes, you know, and just don't just wipe it on the table and say, hey, we're not gonna give you the time of the day. So, but anyway, the motion's on the table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. The aye has it to send it back to the Mansdale Livingston Preservation District for them to revisit within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Thank y'all. We're gonna, ma'am?
Will any of the board members attend the meetings?
This board member, these, not unless we personally ask.
I'll come to it.
You know, if we personally ask, yes, I'm sure we would. Yes. Okay, good deal. We're gonna move on to, I think Supervisor Brannon. You're up next.
Oh, yes. Appointment to the P&Z Board, Amanda Myers. I don't believe she's here.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
Yes.
Second.
Got a motion, Supervisor Brannon, make that motion. Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
Your microphone on?
Ma'am, did you get everything you need from up here? Mr. Banks owes you a microphone.
No.
Can you collect today? Collect today.
Oh,
Okay.
boy.
Thank you. That's mine.
All right, we're gonna move on to Keisha.
Okay, see here.
Guys, y'all are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Rest of the day.
We would love for y'all to stay.
Gonna call in pizza here soon.
It's the
No,
longest,
we're gonna try to move on
Save
through.
3 hours.
it's the longest meeting we've had in a while. Huh?
I knew it was gonna be long.
Well, I expected it.
I didn't expect to be this long.
Yeah, I thought long meant 12 o'clock.
I know.
You're earning your money now.
Hey, man, I get paid $1.72 every 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Like $200 every.
All right, Keisha.
$1.72 every 2
Hey, guys. Hey, listen. Everybody in the back, please step outside.
Yeah, if y'all want to talk.
We got a meeting that we're going to continue to move forward with. Thank y'all. Keisha,
Good afternoon, Board.
good afternoon.
I present to you item number 44 on the agenda to award the bid for the police pursuit package vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. Attached, you should see on your iPads copies of the results of the recent reverse auction for 10 to 14 police pursuit package vehicles for Madison County Sheriff's Department. I recommend that the board take the following action. 1, to acknowledge the bid received.
Do I have a motion to acknowledge?
Move.
Got a motion by Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second? I'll second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed.
Number 2, award 10 to 14 police pursuit package vehicles at the amount of $50,609 per vehicle.
Do I have a motion?
Move on
Got a
that.
motion, Supervisor Griffin, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And the last one, award Cannon Chevrolet Nissan Greenwood as the lowest and best bidder.
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Item number 45, approve the declaration of sole source computer upgrades for the Madison County Detention Center. The Madison County Sheriff's Department has requisitioned for Montgomery Technology System, LLC, to upgrade the computer system for the Madison County Jail. The computer upgrades will integrate with the MTI control system currently installed at the facility. As the attached letter that you see indicates, if any other system integrator were to attempt to upgrade the interface system, the system at the county jail, it will have to completely be replaced at the significantly high cost to the county. So I recommend to the board that you all declare this as a sole source.
I have a motion.
Motion.
Got a motion,
Second
Supervisor
the
Griffin,
motion.
second Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I also ask that you authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Montgomery Technology System, LLC, for the amount of $35,130 for said control system computer upgrades per the attached quote.
Motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Griffin, second Supervisor, I'll second it. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. Drew?
Good afternoon, Board.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Buildings and Grounds has one item today. I have a proposal for architectural engineering services from Belinda Stewart Architects for a re-roof project on our historic courthouse.
I'll make a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second that for the
Second,
50th time.
Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Get a roof every 5 years on that thing.
And it's expensive. Tim?
Good afternoon. We bring back before you the traffic analysis for Stribling Road. This is the same analysis that we brought to you 2 weeks ago. With this analysis, we have removed any reference to commercial zoning from the report, and we ask for the acknowledgement, acknowledgement of the report.
All right, before we do that, Mr. Espy, do you want to give an update on some information that was, I guess, given out by my person last week?
Yes, I'll be very brief. This issue relates to whether Supervisor Banks is obligated to recuse himself, to either vote or participate or to be present in matters relating to traffic study on Stribling Road. And I just want to let the board know that since the meeting 2 weeks ago, when all this came up regarding another advisory opinion that was issued 2008, did relate to Mr. Banks, but it talked about a master plan. And that opinion did say that Supervisor Banks, or the supervisor in question, was obligated to recuse himself back then. Since then, I've done three things, really. I had 2 conversations with Tom Hood, who's the director of the Mississippi Ethics Department, and I reviewed on my own certain opinions related to topics that are more relevant than the one issued earlier. And so I would like to, first of all, just tell you that Mr. Tom Hood, in a direct conversation with me about a Stribling Road traffic study and whether Mr. Banks would obligated to recuse himself, he said no. He said no. And so there was 2 conversations. And I would like to introduce into the record advisory opinion number 17071E. And the issue is made member of a municipal commission participate in actions related to a road project located near real property owned by the commission member's employer. The answer was yes. The municipal commission member may participate because any speculation regarding the possible effect of this road project on nearby property values is not sufficient to require the commission member to recuse from the matter, and no violation of section 25.4.105.1 of the Code 1972 will result if the commission member fully participates in actions related to this particular road project. So that was related to a road project. And the answer was that the commission member was not obligated to recuse. This is even more remote. This is a traffic study on Stripling Road, which is a major thoroughfare that traverses north and west, north and south, where Lake Caroline is one subdivision along the route. And I think it's very speculative and so remote that Supervisor Banks' property will be affected, or there'd be any direct or indirect pecuniary benefit to Supervisor Banks from sitting in and being able to vote and discuss a traffic study for the purpose of road improvements in the county. So, again, the summary of the opinion that I'm asking be entered into the record. It says that mere speculation about a possible pecuniary benefit in the future is not sufficient to obligate the public official, Mr. Banks, to recuse himself from actions associated with the road project, and that the public official could fully participate in all actions involving the project, the road project. This is a road study, not even yet a project. So based on my conversations with Mr. Hood and the other opinions, this one is just I suggested to enter into the record. I believe that, and I recommend that Mr. Banks be allowed to participate and to vote if necessary, and to take part in all endeavors related to a road study. Thank you. And I ask that this be entered to the minutes.
All right, if you would, let's go ahead and give that to, do I have a motion to enter?
Motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Griffin. Do I have a second? I'll second. And what is that actually called, Ronnie, for my motion? Or for?
Ethics Commission.
Okay, so that's what the motion is, to be entered into the minutes. Discussion?
Advisory opinion number 17-071-E.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Mike. Tim?
Okay. Did we acknowledge the report?
Motion to acknowledge.
Got a motion to acknowledge the report by Supervisor Griffin. I'll second.
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks, that is. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right. Next item I have is the Yandell Road traffic analysis. Jonathan Kaiser is here. He's going to brief you all on the analysis that he did for Yandell Road.
Tim, can we kind of move on down and let's get him, because others I think go pretty quick, whether or not.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Let's do that, because I think we have one or two.
Next item I have is the 2023 annual report for our NPDS permit. Ask that you approve the permit and authorize the board president to sign the documents and allow us to submit it to MDQ.
I'll make a motion for approval. Do I have a second? Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
All right, next item is we ask that the board approve the preliminary plat for North Shore Caroline Part 6, 19 lots on 21.41 acres. No public infrastructure associated with it.
Got a motion for Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right. Next item is the exact same thing. It's the final plat for the same subdivision.
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right. Last item I have is permission for the county engineer me to attend the ITE meeting in Pearl, Mississippi on the 1st of February.
I move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Going back to item 48.
Okay.
Jonathan Kaiser with Kaiser Traffic. We looked at Yandale Road in a little more detail. We did traffic counts at all of the subdivision driveways between Clarkdale Road Extension and Bainbridge. One of the things that really stood out, and at the intersection of Highway 51 and Yandale Road, the AM peak hour volume was, over 928 vehicles in a 2021 count. What we found interesting is that 50% of that traffic is coming from basically 2 points on Yandale Road. Clarkdale Road Extension is one of those where 25% of the traffic is coming in, and the exit for the school, for the elementary school, is where the other 25% roughly is coming in. So those 2 access points are generating half of the westbound traffic in the morning. And so that was really the congestion point that we focused on. And so there's concepts provided that show a 5-lane roadway of widening Yandale Road to 5 lanes. Basically, the school exit would be the beginning of the westbound 5th lane, and Glenwild would be the ending of that 5th lane. We looked at all of the driveways, all of these residential driveways, and whether or not they would meet requirements for left turn or right turn dedicated lanes, and identified where those individual locations were. But because most of the property along Yandale Road is being developed as residential with 3 homes per acre, providing a center turn lane would really have a big benefit on most of the subdivisions out there, where you would not be restricted to have a gap in both directions at the same time to turn left out of your subdivision. You could only require a gap in one direction to get in then to the center turn lane to then wait on a gap in the next direction. So that concept is shown of widening from Glenwild out to Hampton Hills, and then there's a gap in development there between Hampton Hills and Johnson Lane, and then 3-laning from Johnson past Deerfield to Cedar Grove Lane East, and then another turn lane at the east, the Deerfield Club Drive access, and then from Cedar Green to Bainbridge East Drive, which that's, again, it's where you have this density of single-family homes developing and where the majority of your traffic is turning in and out of. So you've got those concepts in front of you. I guess the major one is the 5-laning aspect, that just 5-laning over to 51 doesn't solve the problem if you can't get them beyond 51. That stretch between Highway 51 and Parkway East has 2 impediments that make it a little more challenging, with the bridge over the creek, over Bear Creek, and then also with the railroad crossing. So I did have a conversation with the railroad about the complexity of this crossing and in their review time, and they did not see this as a major obstacle. They were on board. They said they may ask the county if there's another crossing that they would be willing to close. And I said, well, we're not adding a new crossing. All we're doing is adding lanes at the crossing. But we did have a conversation with the railroad. But essentially, you would widen Weisenberger between Parkway East and 51 to 5-lane, so that this 5-lane of Yandale would have some relief. You would more than double the amount of traffic that you could get through the traffic signal during the peak hours at 51 in Yandale and Weisenberger. One of the benefits with the 5-lane going over to Parkway East is that right now, the majority of the traffic, I believe it's 85%, turns right and goes north to Gluckstadt Road. But with the county's project with Reunion Parkway Phase 3 to the south, that there will be more demand going south on Parkway East to the new interchange once that opens up. So this 5-lane option, at least from the school over to Parkway East, would significantly improve the congestion that you're having currently on Yandale Road.
That would include purchasing a couple of buildings right there close to Highway 51 in Yandle then, would it not?
I believe that there is room in there
To do a five
to
lane?
do 5-lane curb and gutter. Yes, sir. I believe that, you've got an open ditch drainage system now that with a 5-lane curb and gutter, that you would not impact any structures.
So you're proposing one left turn lane or two left on Highway 51 and then two across Highway 51?
It would be a single left turn lane at 51, 2 westbound through lanes, and a dedicated right turn lane. So, whereas right now you have a left turn lane and a shared through right, that there's really not an effective dedicated right turn lane in there. You've got 860, or I believe it's 928 vehicles per hour in 2021 that were westbound, which is well over capacity for a single lane road.
Up on, by the school, I think we got a project that, should be under construction now.
Yes, sir.
And those lanes was gonna run what direction, Tim, and what way can we run them to help us even faster now?
Well, currently, we've got a project that is right at the right-of-way purchase stage of the project, and it will be 2 lanes westbound. So we're adding a second westbound lane from the school back to where there are 2 westbound lanes currently, which is roughly in the West Fallen area. Okay. Right there by I believe that's a Family Dollar.
All right, and, Jonathan, at, Yandale and, North Oak Kent, is there any lights, red lights, anything proposing to put there in the future?
Yes, we're proposing a traffic signal. The existing traffic volumes meet signal warrants. We're showing, yes, sir. We were showing, providing a dedicated left turn and right turn lanes, and so you would have basically 3 lanes on each approach, a left, a through, and a right at that intersection, controlled by a traffic signal. Yes, sir.
And Tim, I think we've had a little discussion with CMPDD as far as, Paul, there's some monies there that's possible, we could possibly get or try to apply for.
That is one of the intersections that we are talking about applying for the next round of MPO funding for through safety.
Do you need a motion or anything from this board?
Not yet, but I'll be coming to you for that in a couple weeks.
All right. But I want to come on down a little bit further and keep on my thought there on Highway 51 and by the fire station and the storage building. The new road or the new lane that's being put in now, can we make it fit to where it will be able to come out proper on Highway 51 if we decide to add this extra lane from Highway 51 back to the storage buildings or bins?
Well, it would be the addition of 1 lane, and we think we can get it in there. It's like Jonathan said, it's it's a open ditch right now, and if we go in with the curb and gutter section, we would basically be putting the lane in what is now the open ditch section, and would be putting all the drainage underground. So we think we've got room.
Okay.
We may have to buy some right-of-way, but we think we've got room.
Without impacting structures.
Without impacting structures.
Yes, sir.
Do the fire department own that right away up to the left, all the way up to the 51?
I think the county owns that, do they not?
I believe the county owns part of that.
I think the county owns.
I mean, there's some MDOT right-of-way.
Yeah, so we would own the land as well.
Yeah.
So is
What's the, you might not know, but, what's the condition of that fire station there? I know it's been there ever since I've been on the board.
Yeah.
I think, Carl, one time you were thinking about selling it,
tearing
it down.
Yeah, I thought that would have been the best use for it, to sell that location so that we can take that funding to put it into another location, better suited location. It's being blocked. It's difficult to get fire trucks in and out when it's high traffic time. So it's just a bad location right now. When we first put it there 30 years ago, it wasn't so bad. But times change.
As far as the state of the building, Supervisor Griffin, it is a perfectly fine fire station. We've replaced enough things on it that it's one of those Theseus's ships where it's the same building, but everything inside of it is new because it's all been replaced in the last 30 years.
Right.
I think it's that one we just replaced the door in because there was a small collision between the door and the fire truck. So we were able to get that replaced. So brand new door on Bay 2, if nothing else.
I sure thought you were gonna tell me that it's raggedy, and I was gonna suggest the car we tear it down and run a lane right down through there.
Well, it sounds like that we
I
have
have
room.
to.
It sounds like we have room anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds as if we have room for one more lane there.
Mhm.
That will do what is being suggested, that will help move the traffic.
Without dealing with the building, just get some of that right away there.
Yeah, because if you remove that building, then you're gonna have to build another one somewhere.
Well, yeah, that's the thought.
Somewhere.
My thoughts was to move, do another building.
It's not what I want to tell you, but we've got, 3 proposals in for the Yandell to Gluckstadt Road connector. They're sitting in my office. But the limits of this project are different than the limits of that project. So if we want to go after federal money, we need to advertise for this project
For
specifically.
this project here.
Yes.
So in other words, you need a motion.
So I need
for
the
us
motion, advertise for engineers for this project.
Okay. That would be my motion.
Got a motion on the table, do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Motion made by Supervisor Griffin to advertise for,
This project, what you
I guess
call
it would be, oh man, you're putting me on the spot. I guess it would be,
Yeah, they're improvement.
yeah,
Capacity improvement.
Yandell capacity improvement. It would be Weisenberger widening is the first step that we would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Because the one at the school is,
why couldn't we do both at the same time?
Well, we're widening Yandell under this existing project. We're not 5-laning it, but we're 3-laning it with 2 in the westbound direction, which is the priority that,
But you're not putting the extra lane down by the fire station under that project.
no, that would be part of this project. We
Okay.
would be doing the intersection improvements at 51 in Yandell along with Weisenberger.
Okay,
Under this.
that's what I was really getting at.
Yeah,
Make sure we
it
do
would be
both.
from 51 in Yandell over to Parkway East.
Okay.
well, let's get a double name then, Yandell / Weisenberg.
Okay.
Improvement.
All right,
What about that?
that'll work.
Ronnie, did you get that?
That's pretty
I just
close.
put advertise for Yandell / Weisenberger capacity improvements.
You got it.
Yeah.
That'll
You got
work.
a motion, second, discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Hey,
Thank you, John.
hey,
See, I don't want Carl and Trey throwing on me that we ain't doing nothing to Yandell Road like they did on election time.
But we doing
hey,
a lot on
man.
that.
You do what you gotta do to get
I agree.
it right.
Oh, Scott. Scott, you next, yes.
Good afternoon, Board. I
Afternoon.
think that's the first time I've ever said that from a morning meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we've had one other.
Yeah, we have had one other one.
2 quick items. Felicia Brown, medical hardship for mobile home residential district, 254 Mount Leopard Road, District 4 Supervisor.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks.
Medical hardship, I make that
Discussion,
motion.
Supervisor Griffin's discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Is she on the west end of Mount Lebanon?
It's close to Pocahontas Road, I think. It's closer to Pocahontas Road than the other end.
Item 54.
Woodland Construction is a permit refund minus $45, so it'll be $1,006.
Motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Griffin.
second
Second,
that
Supervisor
motion.
Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
That's it.
Right.
Mr. Espy?
Nothing further. You gave me my instructions earlier.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Greg?
All right. Good afternoon, Board. A few things for you. Item 55 is a Massett Steering Committee nomination. Last year, it was, we'll call it my distinct pleasure to serve on the Risk Management Committee. They were nice enough to make an exception to allow a county administrator to serve instead of a, fair enough.
Did a good job last year.
Motion Supervisor Griffin, second Supervisor Banks, and they'll be kind enough again this year.
I suspect they will.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
All right, item 56 is to acknowledge the Madison County Fastenal DIP grant closeout. This is a grant that's been in this county and been an ongoing thing for many, many, many years. And we were finally able to close it out. So just asking this board to acknowledge that.
All right, got a motion Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second? I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right.
7.
Item 57 is to authorize public defenders to join PERS effective for the pay period beginning January 28, 2024.
I'll make a motion. Second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 58 is to authorize a budgeted donation to the Red Cross per state statute. Just for the folks watching at home, this doesn't mean we get to just donate money willy-nilly. If it's not specifically listed in that statute, a donation will result in somebody walking out of here in handcuffs, probably me. So let's not do that.
Do I have a motion? Motion Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second? I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 59 is the result of the change in the year from 23 to 24. The IRS and consequently DFA updates their mileage reimbursement rate. Our policy is that we follow the state. States change theirs, so I'm asking this board to acknowledge the change to ours.
Motion.
Got a motion Supervisor Griffin.
I move.
Second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 60 is to acknowledge a statutory change in the coroner's fee. As part of his duties, obviously, he goes out and serves as a medical examiner. Fee went up, I think it was $10 to $185.
I'll make a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed?
All right, thank you very much.
All right, Ms. On?
Item number 61 is the budget amendments and the interfund cash transfers.
I'll make a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
The next item, 62 through 64, is the general claims docket and 2 payroll dockets.
Do I have a motion? Motion Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item 65.
Number 65 is the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission for
I'll
January.
make a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Supervisor Banks, would you take item 66, please?
Yes, I will. It's item number 66.
Yes, sir. That's the approval of the fleet corps claim docket.
I have a motion. I'll move. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And the last item I have is the clerk of the board for December 2023.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Lott?
Nothing,
Thank you,
Mr.
Ms.
President.
Sheriff. Here comes the sheriff.
First, I would like for you to acknowledge that I'm going to provide the clerk a copy of the inmate meal log for the month of December.
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, I'll second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Second, I would like authorization, and I'll provide a copy to the clerk to bill Mississippi Department of Corrections for November 2023 billing a total amount of $3,937.69.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Move Supervisor Banks, second. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And briefly, I'd just like to tell y'all thank you for your votes earlier on the vehicles for the Sheriff's Department computer system upgrade. Vehicles are, as you know, getting more expensive and harder to find, but this board has always helped us maintain a good fleet, and I appreciate you doing that for the Sheriff's Department.
Appreciate it. Jeremy, next board meeting, if you would, just bring us an update with you and the sheriff on the cameras. Yes, sir. Just at the next board meeting, if you don't mind, just 3 or 4 minute update. Yes, sir. And we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, old business. Do I have any new business? We're going to adjourn which date?
What's the date?
Friday, the 26th at 9.
Friday, 26 at 9 a.m. for a short, brief meeting, I hope.
Wait, when was that now? I wasn't paying attention.
Friday, the 26th.
Friday, 26th.
At 9 a.m. Oh, I got that. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second? Paul make the second.
Yeah.
Who seconded?
Trey seconded.
Trey seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right. We can move on.
Are we taking pictures today?